Okay, good evening, everyone. Good evening, and welcome to our regular council meeting of Monday, June 22nd. Call tonight's meeting to order. I do wish to begin by recognizing that the District of Sooke is located on the traditional territories of both the Sooke and Shawnee Nations. Council, I'll turn your attention to item 3.1. That will be the agenda for the June 22nd, 2026 regular meeting of council to be adopted as presented. Moved by Councillor Beto, seconded by St. Pierre. All those in favor? Any opposed? That's unanimous. Thank you. 4.1 is adoption of meeting minutes. So that the following council meeting minutes be adopted as presented, June 8th, 2026 regular and June 15th, 2026 committee of the whole. Moved by Councillor St. Pierre and seconded by Pearson. Any questions or corrections? Seeing none, all in favor? Any opposed? That's unanimous. Thank you. Report of our Chief Administrative Officers, number 5. Over to Ms. Gray, please.
I have nothing further to add at this time. I was going to speak a bit to the annual report on the agenda tonight.
Okay, thank you very much. The report is within the consent agenda, so therefore this takes us to our public question and comment period, item 6. So I'll invite any members of the public that wish to address council and its materials tonight to please do so at this time. If you could please introduce yourself with your name, the municipality or local government you call home, and please let us know which agenda item you are referring to. Thank you.
Good evening, Madam Mayor and Council. My name is Brian McCaddy from Sooke, and I don't have the actual agenda item, but it's the 2025 annual report. So you'll know where that is in the agenda. And throughout my career as a planner and as a politician for 3 terms, I've read lots of annual reports. And some of them I've fallen asleep to. They're great bedtime reading. But through those hundreds of reports, you get a sense of different approaches that are taken by staff and the readability. And I can tell you that this is one of the best reports that I've ever read of that type, an annual report. And it's the readability of it because it can be difficult to read. The way that's presented in terms of transparency, the content, it's content full, and it's clear on where the spending of the municipality is taking place. Very important for citizens in terms of the budget. The statistics section in the back is particularly helpful and full, and it connects well to the strategic plan of council and the key performance indicators that council has chosen as well. So from my perspective, and the highlights, of course, with all the consultation, the official community plan being passed during this term of council, passed by council, and the environmental stewardship work of the Stream Keepers program I'm attending on Wednesday. So that's a pretty exciting initiative of the municipality and the community coming together. The tourism destination tax implementation, looking forward to seeing that. So I think what one takes away from this, and I want to thank the CIO in particular, Rachel and Christina Moog, who I understand had a lot to do with writing the report.
We are at time, Mr. McCaddy.
Okay, I'll finish up. Yep, the last sentence. So what one takes away is stability in terms of the organization and the staff, strong commitment to planning in the public interest, and of course the financial planning award that's highlighted as well, which is pretty exciting. Thank you very much.
Thank you for sharing that. We'll certainly pass it on to our staff. Thank you. Other speakers today?
Thank you. My name is Veronica Pemberton-Villing. I live in Sooke. I'm pleased to be with you. I also thought it was a beautiful report, and I must admit I didn't have time to read it in depth, but I thought it was a lovely report. I did, however, and it's wonderful to have a financial planning award. I'm here, however, to bang the drum again on costs because I think we need a total rethinking of what we're about as council and staff. It's a beautiful report. I would like to know if it was prepared by consultants or if it was done in-house. If it was done in-house, I'm thrilled completely for it, if it was done completely in-house. But I wanted to point to just, I do think we need to look at every single expense we're doing. So, and I'm going to pick out some minor things, like when we talk about, well, we're doing civic education in the classrooms or combining, that's not the job of the municipal council. When we look at the climate initiatives now, I think we need to look at them one by one. So, because we know that BC Hydro is using more and more Fortis gas to support it. We know that the IPPC has pulled back their models and it's not as catastrophic as they said. And we also know that the world is in crisis. We particularly know that Canada is entering a really, really difficult time financially. So I think if we're standing on that annual report going forward, we really need to look at every single section of every single line item. And it's not enough to win a financial planning award, although it's admirable, but it's what is the direction of that planning. And I think we need to be looking at a full, what can I say, scaling down of our expenses, starting from the most minor to the major ones. Thank you.
Thank you. Other speakers today?
Hello, Noah Dowie, Sooke. Just here again about 10.1 Throop Road Connector. Having reviewed the materials in tonight's agenda, I'm still in favor of a 20-meter cross-section as sort of a compromise. Given the limited number of entrances and exits that can be anticipated with this stretch of road, I don't see the value of a center lane or median provided in the 25-meter. Conversely, with the 15.2, I think it's too bare bones, basically just shifting the highway over without enough consideration for other modes of transportation than cars or the pedestrians, mostly youth, that currently traverse this corridor. I'd just like to also note that when speaking about the right-of-way acquisition in the report indicates a majority of the land will need to be purchased from the CRD, specifically C-Park. So the proceeds from such a sale, I'm told, would most likely end up in C-Park's capital reserve, and would in a roundabout way represent a significant investment in recreation here in Sooke. So I feel like that's a nice way to think about that. Separately, regarding 8.1 Sooke Soccer Club delegation, I just want to recognize the value this organization provides for youth in Sooke and to commend them for the transparency around their financial situation that accompanies this request. I recognize it's a difficult ask, but that kind of openness from local groups coming to the taxpayer for funding is nice to see and should be commended. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Other speakers?
Ellen Lures. I also would like to speak to the annual report. Number one, the amount of police and fire calls do not actually reflect the actual calls, of which 78% are call for mental health and drug and alcohol calls. This is extremely important to know where to put our resources and to lobby the province to pay the bills, not the property owners, by council hiring 2 more firemen and 2 more policemen, a direct cost to property tax increase. Report that there were many who commented on the budgets with pop-ups, etc., but how many knew anything that was in the budget and how would it affect their taxes? I don't think that was a fair process. We need to know the exact cost of creating more parks and maintenance costs of trails versus sidewalks and of maintaining the parks, and how perhaps parks should be community gardens. The cost of EVs under the guise of climate change grant allegedly covered the cost of EV stations for staff and district vehicles, but did not cover the cost of 4 vehicles, EV vehicles, with a total of $252,000. What are the costs associated with climate change? Refits at the fire hall, city hall, cost for something not tangible, like CO2 reduction, which is now not so important anymore as we're using our water to build AI centers. Civic education for the youth is not the responsibility of the District of Sooke and taxpayers, but is responsibility of the education system. Food security was never discussed at OCP level or with council, yet here it is in the report like we're all involved. Council and staff are not the ones that decide food security issues and should have been discussed with people affected, i.e. farmers, Sooke Region Fuji, and those invested in growing and raising food in the community. Hiring more staff isn't necessary. Where do we cut back on services, i.e. letting some parks going back to nature, which aren't frequented, and stop creating more, doing more with less? We are in a recession. Let's start acting that way. Cutting back on the amount of staff and counselors going to conferences is a huge savings, as 2 members attending can pass on the info and reduce the cost of one effective government operation as well. And one other comment
You're
I
at
have,
time, Ms. Lewis.
it's just a quick comment.
Okay.
It's about the letters to council. They're just we don't know what they say, and I think that should be open to the public to see as well what people are commenting to the council. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Other speakers today on tonight's agenda? No, you'll need to turn on the microphone, please.
This one?
No, on the base of the stem. Thank you.
Oh, this one. Okay,
Were you here tonight as a delegation,
Yeah.
sir?
so not
Okay.
yet? Somebody
No,
first?
but I'll reorder the agenda since you're seated here, and I'll just ask staff to monitor the
No, I
time.
can wait. I'm not
No,
right.
it's fine. We might as well.
Because I was thinking you called by name.
We're,
Who is
we're
next?
fine, sir. We'll start you as the delegation and you'll have 5 minutes to address council, and then I'll go back to see if there's other members of the public. Okay? All right, go ahead, please.
Okay, my name is Krzysztof Żmuda, a resident of Sooke for last 5 years. And then I came here to talk to the 6th brain of Sooke, but I don't see 5 of them today, so one is missing. But anyway, I'm going to talk about the budget, property taxes, increases. I'm on disability pension plan, and I cannot follow increases as you do that because my pension plan cannot do it. So, and today I talked to the city council about property taxes. I make the simple chart for you to understand my point. Everybody know the tax assessment looks like ABC, right? Do you? Right, ABC, so A is for people, working people pay taxes. So then B is people of under 65, and C is people over 65, right? And this is the glitch. Guys, I don't know, I'm talking to the brain of Sooke, and then this is the problem, because section C, when you see it, for example, my neighbor living with his spouse, and the combined income is on pension plan $5,000. I'm living alone for $2,000, and I have to pay the same amount of taxes as they pay. Do you think it's fair? What do you think? Can you open your mind? Can you think about it? So I have that solution, because you spend too much money when I review the budget. So spend too much money. So we have to control that, or maybe reduce that. Did you even consider to reduce the property taxes? No? No clue? I give you the clue. How about we can reduce your salaries to minimum wage from BC? And then,
Okay, that's
Yeah.
fine, Councillor
Yeah.
St. Pierre.
then you can feel it, what I feel and others working for minimum wage in Sooke, how to pay you property taxes increase. So my solution is, like I said, reduce your salaries, reduce your amount of the city council, because we don't need a 6, because Langford have the 50,000 people residents and they have 6. Sooke only have the 16,000 and also 6. We cannot afford to have the 6. So my suggestion is to reduce to 4 and 2 other seats available for the seniors, volunteer seniors who can maybe address and do something for seniors in the city because nobody cares, one of you. And my another solution is to make changes for 4, A, B, C, D. You see the C, the couple, they make $5,000 together, and I'm alone. And I have to pay the same amount of taxes, which is unfair. So you have to adjust to make the D for the single low-income people living in Sooke can afford to pay property taxes. Is that clear? Any question? Can you start thinking about this? Do something for the people low income. Call Sooke maybe a retired town. Do something about the Sooke traffic. Another suggestion is to relocate the city hall, the district, to the elementary school on the Sooke, which created traffic, extra traffic. You can move there and move the elementary school here for safety. How about that? Make sense? I ask you, Guy, you become the brain of Sooke. I expect you can use the common sense because the government was created for people that can make something, think for us how to make easier and better in Sooke. But I don't see that. Only what do? You approve only
Okay,
tax increases.
we are at your time limit. Thank you for
Okay.
presenting with
So I
us
have
today.
another issue. I will come back again with another issue.
Okay,
Not finished.
okay, that was
But
5
I'm glad
minutes,
from
so
the
thank
news
you.
That you are not including.
Okay, I'm sure many people agree with you. Thank you.
Select different people who care.
Okay, thank you. Do we have I'm going to go back to our public input section now and see if there are any other members of the public that would like to address council.
Hey.
Thank you. No, if you just turn on the button, it's just at the stem. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Christine. I live in Sooke. I just had a quick little blurb that I wanted to do. I want to ask a question, actually. Why are we giving an NGO such as Macola that makes $34 million per year permissive tax exemptions right through to 2030? Why do taxpayers have to pay their property taxes when they have more than enough to pay their own? It is my understanding that before October 2026, we can revisit and reconsider this exemption.
I'll just respond that Macola will have taxes levied on them and it'll be phased in over time, but their land assessment is not within our discretionary ability. Other speakers tonight? I'm looking for members of the public to speak.
Helen Ritz, I live in Sooke. I'm here to speak to the Throop Road, and I support the 25-meter build out. I think there was a time when we built roads and pedestrian and biking safety wasn't a top priority, but that has long since passed. And I think also the role of council is to think to the future and to think about public safety. And I know that so many people would want to bike, walk, roll, whatever they could. So, it's costs so much money. You know, my dad used to say the most expensive solution is a temporary one. And it seems like once you put duct tape on something, you really never go back to finish it. So I think, you know, the best thing is do it right to begin with. So I would support that. And then there were some tax numbers, and I think it was about an extra $5 to do it right. So I would definitely support that.
Okay, thank you. Any other speakers this evening? Anyone else? This is the final time on tonight's agenda. Okay, thank you, everyone. We'll move on to our next delegation today, item 7 is our invited presentation. So 7.1 is BC Transit, a draft Victoria Regional Transit Plan update. Welcome.
Excellent. And thank you to the mayor and council for having me here today. My name is Levi Megenber. I'm the manager of service planning. Pleased to be back here again today to provide an update on the draft Victoria Regional Transit Plan. What is the Victoria Regional Transit Plan and what are we trying to accomplish with it? I'd say the first component is really looking to update the vision for the transit system over the next 25 years. It's been about 15 years since the Transit Future Plan was completed in 2011, and we've seen some massive changes in the region, so it's high time we revisit it. Beyond the vision for the transit network, we also are looking to develop some comprehensive network and route design guidelines. The intention of these are to provide a malleable framework so we can continue to evolve the transit system as the region continues to grow and develop. We know it's been a very dynamic period of time over the last 5 years in terms of development, official community plan updates. We want to make sure that this 25-year plan has the resilience to evolve and change as the region continues to shape over the next 25 years. And then finally, really to guide future infrastructure investment, that goes for operations and maintenance facilities to support expanded fleet in the coming years, as well as supporting rapid transit initiatives and the evolution and growth of the regional express services and local transit services within the region as well. The Victoria Regional Transit Plan isn't starting from scratch. It's building on the foundation of previously completed planning work that includes the 2011 Transit Future Plan, which included a basic network hierarchy of rapid, frequent, and local services. It also builds upon the 2021 rapid bus implementation strategy. So taking some of the great work that was done there and expanding it even further, recognizing the recent changes to the region. We also know the plan needs to grow and evolve with the region, and we've seen significant changes over the last 15 years. And in particular, I think we've all seen the rapid pace of growth within the West Shore in particular, with Sooke having one of the highest percentage increases in population in the province. We recognize how important it is for us to be looking to the future, how we can improve service to the West Shore and to Sooke as well. Before talking about the details of the plan, I think there's value in just briefly reflecting on some of the significant accomplishments within the transit system over the last 5 years. So the first is the digital fare collection technology, UMO, which allows people to pay for their transit service on their phone or with a digital card they can reload. And then over the last month, of course, we introduced debit and credit tap, which is a major milestone for the system, allowing tourists to access the system much easier and occasional users. Battery electric bus continues to unfold within the region. So we have 25 battery electric buses now operating within the region, with more coming, which is a huge and exciting milestone. In 2023, we launched the first rapid bus service within the region with the 95 Victoria to Langford Blink rapid bus line. That's now carrying over 11,000 passengers per day within the region. Work continues on the Highway 1 rapid bus infrastructure, in particular right now between the Mackenzie interchange and the Island Highway. So that should wrap up by fall of next year, and we'll once again continue to improve the speed and reliability of transit across the region. We recently completed the Handy Dart facility in View Royal, which is a huge game changer. We haven't been able to invest in Handy Dart in over 10 years. And so this allows us to finally provide improvements to Handy Dart service within the region. And then finally, the province introduced the Kids 12 and Under Ride Free program. And it's been great to see the youth demographic growing rapidly in terms of ridership. We definitely see that in terms of our statistics, and it's shaping the future generation of transit riders within the region. In terms of current service within Sooke, the majority of service is provided by the 61. In peak periods, it's almost every 15 minutes in combination with the 65, providing 30 to 60-minute service throughout the rest of the day. And it's supplemented by other local services, including Route 63, 64, and Route 65. I'll just point out the Route 65, we recently changed that to better align with recent development within the Sooke area. So now we have improved service to the Aranwood, Helgeson area within the northeast part of Sooke, which was something we heard through public engagement. In terms of public engagement for the Victoria Regional Transit Plan, we talked to a lot of people. We had almost 1,900 people fill out our online survey. We had 350 people come out and talk to us in person over the 9 open house events we hosted. And we got a lot of feedback and input. Beyond public engagement, we also had some extensive stakeholder engagement. We talked to neighborhood and community associations across the region, key employers, major institutional organizations like UVic, YYJ, BC Ferries. And we heard a lot of feedback. Additionally, I just want to indicate we also spoke extensively with local government staff at all the municipalities to make sure we're aligning with official community plans, and that was huge. What we heard from public engagement, though, really frequency was what we heard the most of. People want more frequent options to travel, improve reliability. We heard a huge amount about rapid transit. I would say about 80% of the open comments we received were about improving and expanding rapid transit, making evolving it more quickly within the region, and then a desire for simplified routes and direct connections within the transit network. I won't go into too much detail on the network and route design guidelines because it's almost its own separate topic. But really the intent of these is to develop a demand-based framework for guiding future service investment. And then the other key component is to provide clarity to the public, local governments, and BC Transit as well around if a community builds a certain type of development, that there's clear understanding of what type of transit service will be provided to that in the future. And that's really just to ensure equity and clarity as we continue to grow and evolve within the region. So that brings us to the major component of the plan, which is the draft big moves. So there's 10 key initiatives that we've identified to move the transit system forward. One thing you'll note is a large part of these are rapid transit oriented. And this really is reflective of what we heard through public engagement and also what we've been seeing in terms of ridership patterns and the needs evolving within the region. So that's everything between Mackenzie Rapid Transit, Peninsula Rapid Transit, higher order transit between downtown Victoria and the Langford area, and potential future rapid transit extension to James Bay and Jubilee areas within the core. As well as some major transit infrastructure projects, including the 6 Mile Mobility Hub and the Uptown Mobility Hub, which are largely seeking to help support the evolution of the rapid transit network and support how the network needs to evolve to support that in the future. Beyond rapid transit, we have 3 other key big moves. One is expanding the frequent transit network and modernizing the transit network, modernizing the Handy Dart system, and then improving interregional connections. So a little more detail on the higher order rapid transit. First of all, what is higher order rapid transit? We're defining that as essentially higher capacity vehicles beyond a double decker. So we're talking trains, we're talking trackless trams, something that could carry a lot more people within a single vehicle. In particular, Mott updated their LRT study and they released that in 2025. And by 2050, it's anticipated that we're going to need higher capacity vehicles on Douglas to manage the anticipated ridership growth and demand. So the alignment between downtown and the 6 Mile area is locked in, but we do need to revisit the connection between the 6 Mile Mobility Hub and downtown Langford. There have been some massive changes to plans between Colwood and Langford with their official community plans. We just want to make sure that the future alignment reflects some of those changes within those communities into the future. What do we mean by network modernization? There's a lot embedded in this particular big move. So the first is really building out a frequent transit grid where we know there's going to be the highest density and ridership within the region to improve mobility. But what does that mean for areas that aren't anticipated to support all day 15-minute service frequency? There's some other new service types we're looking to include in the future plan. One of those includes regional express, which I think is particularly relevant for outlying areas like Sooke, where maybe they won't support 15-minute all-day service, but we can still really improve connectivity into the rest of the system in a different way than we do today. And then as well, low density in rural areas. We've got a new service type called Digital on Demand that's being piloted elsewhere within the within British Columbia, sorry, and that we can look to extend into the Victoria Regional Transit System in the coming years. So just a bit more on digital on demand. What is it? The really easy way of describing it is Uber for buses. Essentially, there's a digital app where people can book a trip within a defined service area. And the bus will optimize picking up and dropping off all the passengers who are requesting rides in a way to pick up and drop off people within lower density areas. And the intent of the digital on-demand service is once again provide base coverage in low density areas, connect people within those areas, and get them to the conventional transit system and to tie into the rest of the transit network. Hand unit modernization. We're in the process of procuring a digital tool to help with the customer experience booking trips and also to improve the efficiency of the delivery of handy dart service. So the intent there is people can still call in as they currently do, but they can book online. And then the algorithm on the back end will optimize how trips are distributed, hoping we can squeeze out more value and deliver more trips within our existing resource window. And then finally, I'll just indicate the handy dart facility just opened and we can finally expand for the first time in 10 years, which is huge. West Shore priorities beyond the big moves. So continue to develop the rapid, frequent, and regional express and local transit networks. I think transit priority is something that we really need to consider in a bigger way within the region. We're seeing transit slow down by about 1.5% every year. And so that means even though we've been expanding by about 2% every year, we're not actually getting that many additional trips. So we're really going to focus on trying to work with local governments to speed transit up so we can get more value out of our existing resources. In terms of additional transit infrastructure, so mobility hubs and exchanges, we do have the Wadhams Way Transit Exchange on the books still for just in front of the library on Wadhams Way. But there's also a number of other mobility hubs and transit exchange projects identified for the West Shore area. So before I talk about next steps, I just want to indicate this is a very ambitious plan. The amount of investment required to accomplish all the objectives within this plan will require us as a region to look at transit in a different way. That means from the province in terms of funding and potentially legislative opportunities for funding in a different way. That means BC Transit looking at the transit network and how we prioritize service in a different way. And that also means local governments in the regional district in terms of how we work to prioritize transit on our streets and move more people more efficiently across the region in the coming years. So with that in mind, I just want to indicate in terms of next steps, we are in the process of presenting this draft plan to all municipalities in the regional district. I believe we have 2 more to go after the District of Sooke. So, we've got a couple more conversations to go. But after that, we'll be updating the commission in July with the draft plan, getting feedback, and then we hope to bring the final version back to the commission in September for final endorsement. But with that, I wanted to open the floor for any questions and comments you may have. There is an opportunity to make tweaks and adjustments to this at this stage. So looking forward to hearing your thoughts and feedback.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Haldane.
Yeah, sure. I got a couple. Airport. There's desperate need. Obviously, cabs are super expensive and people need to get from downtown or West Shore to the airport or picked up. And parking out there is, if you week holiday, it's $120, that kind of thing. So is there any ability to increase that?
100%. So through the chair, it is in the Peninsula Rapid Transit Big Moves section. Based off recent conversations with the commission, there is a strong priority to provide a 1-seat ride between the downtown Victoria area and YYJ. And so as we look to roll out the Peninsula Rapid Bus solution, that will be one key component of that moving forward into the future. And that is a change to what our previous plans indicated, which was continuing to provide a connection at McTavish Exchange. So this is a new adjustment in terms of how we're looking at transit within the region.
Right. Okay. Thank you.
The other thing I'll also just say is we do have a minor step in that direction that we're planning to launch this September for those early morning commuter trips and late evening trips. We will be deviating the 72 into the airport. So if you're trying to catch a very early morning flight or coming back late in the evening, there's the opportunity potentially to get service later and also reduce the number of connections required within the network as a first step.
Yeah, that'd be great. Appreciate that. The other thing was the amount of money we're spending on the bus lane to get back and forth to Victoria and out to the West Shore and stuff. Is there an opportunity for an HOV for multi-passenger cars to be able to work with that? I mean, buses are only using the lane intermittently. Can that be bumped up, or is that anything you guys have to do with, or you could agree to or share the lane?
Yeah, it's a good question. Different regions look at this infrastructure in different ways, and I think Kelowna is a good case study in potential scenario where maybe we've tried it and it didn't work out so well as a cautionary tale. So for example, Kelowna, we do have HOV and bus lanes on Highway 97, and we actually find that transit doesn't operate any quicker since we implemented it. And in relation, when we opened the Highway 1 bus lanes between, I believe it was Tolme and Tillicum, we saw 15 to 20 minute peak travel time savings with the bus. One of the challenges we face is once you start letting other uses share the lane, turning movements continue to slow things down. And we just find that it will delay transit more and more. We operate a lot of transit down the Highway 1 corridor. You may not see constant buses going, but each double decker carries about up to 100 people. So I think it's something that could be considered, but I think we just need to be very careful about where that line is drawn, recognizing the experience we've seen in other communities such as Kelowna.
Well, there's an opportunity to make it 3 people instead of 2 or that type of thing, lessen it, but to give you some bonus for carpooling. Come up with some. Yeah, thank you.
Okay, other counselors have questions or comments?
Well, sure.
Okay, if
I'm gonna let our guest stop that quickly. Okay, so Levi, thank you for being here. Now, when you mentioned regional express services, what would those look like? Would that just be fewer stops along the way into town, or how does that work?
So great question. One of the things we hear, I would say in particular from Sooke riders and Sooke residents, is there are challenges in particular in the PM getting back from Victoria into Sooke, because there's a lot of people who want to hop on that bus and just hop off at Uptown, for example. So one of the concepts for the regional express service is it potentially allows us to look at things such as limited pickup and drop off.
Right.
So for example, we could say, hey, no drop off until you get to Sligo Lumber or something like that with the 61. So yes, limited stop, I think we would want to potentially look at so we can move people more quickly while still preserving access to where the majority of people need to go. But I think this other piece of pickup drop off policy is something we can explore to help make sure that the capacity on the bus for the people that service is designed for is preserved. Yeah, but we need to look at that comprehensively because we need to think about the people who currently use it. How do we move them and all of that fun stuff?
Yes, okay. So this is a 25-year plan. So over the next 5 years, we'll be seeing work on this. I was I think in game changers for transit use here, that rapid bus lane expansion to downtown Langford, by which you mean the Langford station. Would that be the downtown Langford you're thinking of? For a mobility hub for rapid bus.
Let me just go back. Oh, are you talking about the higher order transit?
Yes.
Yeah, so right now, we don't have this specific alignment confirmed yet. We're going to have a separate study as an output of this plan, just to reconfirm what that alignment is. There is the potential in the future to look at further extensions to that alignment, whether that be to West Hills or to the Happy Valley Highway 14 future hub that's being envisioned by Langford for future development and densification. These are all things we need to explore in greater detail through that future alignment study. But I think once again, there are opportunities as we invest in corridor prioritization to benefit Sooke residents and other residents as they use some of those same corridors wherever they're traveling within the region.
Okay. Now, at today's CRD workshop, it was mentioned at the outset that while walking and cycling throughout the region is increasing, transit ridership is flatlined at this point. So you mentioned 2,000 average weekday boardings here in Sooke, and we're quite a high per capita use of the service, I believe. Can you tell me where were we at pre-COVID?
Ooh, that's a great question. I don't have those statistics in my back pocket, but I don't think it's changed a lot over the last year or two. I think that's been pretty consistent. Yeah.
Okay, tonight, I think we're going to be booking our UBCM meeting with Minister of Transportation and Transit, Farnworth. Suggestions on what we might raise with him. I know you, yeah, go ahead.
Great question through the chair. I don't want to overstep.
Overstep, please.
I think if you look at existing transit service, there's certain areas where we definitely see transit getting stuck in traffic,
Yeah.
reducing the desire perhaps to take transit, not really providing an additional incentive to take transit over driving, for example. So I think there's probably some specific areas, both with respect to Highway 14 and within the Sooke Town core itself, where there may be opportunities to prioritize transit so it's able to move more quickly and reliably, and really incentivize growth in transit ridership within Sooke and mitigate some of that congestion we're seeing growing in the future.
So those are the jump lanes you're thinking.
Queue jump lanes, potentially small sections of lane dedication for transit where it makes sense. I know there's limited right of way, so what are the opportunities to get the most value out of limited additional curb space that we can find for key roadways within the Sooke area? Transit priority is such a key need to, once again, move transit more efficiently and squeeze more value out of each resource that we put into transit.
Okay.
Hey, Councillor Pearson, then Beddoes.
Yes, thank you, Chair. I have a couple of questions and over the years, we've had quite a few presentations from transit itself, and it feels always like a bit, to me, it always feels like, build and they will come. And we're design a system based on a survey. So do we see a correlation between the survey and ridership? So we take a survey, you build a system, you say, okay, this is what the people have asked. Is there an actual measurement that tells us that you got the survey bang on or close? What in the back end, where are the metrics around ridership? What's the effectiveness of that route once it's been put into place? How do those measurements show up for us?
Yeah, great question. Through the chair, we do collect what we call APC or automated passenger counter data on our buses, which allows us to track where people are getting on and off the bus over time across the entire transit network, which is a very helpful metric for us to be able to understand where are we seeing ridership uptake, maybe where aren't we? Your question is broad enough, it's hard to answer succinctly. So for example, we did the Sooke local area plan back in 2020, I believe, and we had a number of proposed improvements within the Sooke region. And I will fully admit that a lot of these priorities and initiatives, we just have not had the resources to implement. So I would say there's still a lot of things outstanding within the Sooke region in terms of improvements to local service that just have not happened to date. And so we've made some tweaks and adjustments in recent years, like with the change to the 65, looking at how we can expand access within existing resources. The other thing I'll say is when we implemented the rapid bus alignment, we were able to, because we had to split the 95 and the 61, or I guess it was the 50 at the time, we were able to significantly improve off-peak service on the 61, which was a huge improvement in terms of people being able to just take transit without consulting a schedule. Like from hourly service to half hourly service is a game changer. And we definitely saw a bump in transit ridership at that point. I will say it's still too early to really understand those changes to the 65. I've heard just through talking with people that more people appear to be getting on and off the new bus stops that we installed to support that in the Aranwood, Helgeson area, which is great to see. But yeah, there's still a lot more work to do within the Sooke region. But with the changes we've done recently, like we are seeing some improvements in ridership.
You're seeing some ticks up.
Yeah.
Is there short-term, these like recent gas prices as an example, does that affect ridership? Like short-term and medium and long-term? Once people find out about it, do they have a tendency to stay? Is there sort of a retention rate?
So through the chair, I know back in 2008, when the 2008 financial crisis hit and fuel prices spiked significantly, we definitely saw much more demand at that time for transit ridership. I don't think the region is experiencing the same kind of pain right now that we were back then. And there's also a lot of other confounding factors as well with the federal immigration changes. We've actually seen population growth sort of level off. So there's a lot of things that are happening right now. It's hard to track the impact of any one change, such as fuel prices. So I would say right now what we see is in the region, ridership is kind of flatlining, whereas before it was continuing to increase. But we need to continue to monitor and see, like, I think, to see how the population changes, continue to roll out, how fuel prices, once people get used to the new context.
Okay. I have one more short question. What linkage do you have transit with communities on Southern Vancouver Island with relationship to Bill 44? Increased density. Are you meeting with planning staff? Is that going on across the region, where we expect to see growth in?
100%. So we worked very closely with local government staff through the development of this process. We had 3 separate staff workshops. One of the key goals was to ensure we were aligning the transit plan with the updated official community plans. It was really ideal timing because we were able to have a two-way conversation between what are you thinking for land use and what does that mean for transit? But also, if you were to make these adjustments, that would mean X, Y, or Z for transit. So it actually allowed local government staff to reflect on what they'd heard from their communities about what transit they want and to think about how they could make tweaks and adjustments to their official community plan. So it was really an ideal timing, and we had that opportunity for the bi-directional conversation to ensure we're aligning transit and land use.
Great.
Recently.
And just my last question is directed to our chair. Having a wealth of information and being on the Transit Commission for so long, how are you seeing this plan integrated as being a commission member? Like, are we progressing? And I'd like to hear your comments, actually, because probably have the most experience at this table.
I need to think on that. I'm going to go to Councillor Beddoes first so I can process. Go ahead.
All right. Thank you very much for your presentation. Mine's sort of a bugaboo that I've mentioned numerous times, but when you removed the double-decker buses from Sooke, our ridership went down because I talked to people, they say, because of our road situation, sometimes it's delayed and there's no place to sit on the bus that they were getting. So they went back to their cars. If they're going to sit comfortably in traffic, they want to be in their cars. Is there any thought to bringing double-decker buses back out to Sooke, considering the amount of ridership we have? My personal feeling is we feel kind of slighted, people that I've talked to, that those were taken away. I understand they're taken away for some good reasoning. Is there any opportunity to bring them back?
Yeah, great question. Through the chair, we've had some significant challenges with our double-decker fleet over the last several years. We had to retire a number of them early just because they were having too many maintenance challenges and we couldn't keep them out on the road. I will say there is some hope on the horizon. We have a major order of double-deckers that are planned over the next sort of 3 to 6 months that should be arriving within Victoria, boosting up the amount of deckers. And then as well, next year, we've got the next batch of double-decker replacements coming into the fleet. I can't promise with certainty that deckers are coming back to the Sooke area, but I think that's something we need to look at as we look to the future network restructuring. That will be a next step out of the Victoria Regional Transit Plan. Either way, we need to improve the customer experience on transit for Sooke residents. And whether that is looking at bringing double deckers back, whether that's looking at the regional express service, preserving more capacity on buses so people do have a more comfortable travel experience to and from Sooke, or some combination of both. I think we'll have some new tools in our toolkit with the completion of this plan that will allow us to look at the network a little differently and look at how we can provide services in a way that meets the needs that we've been hearing from the community over the last several years. And we just haven't had the tools to solve in the short term.
I thank you for that response. That was the most articulate response I've heard to the problem in the 8 years that I've sat at this desk, that there is hope on the horizon and we're not forgotten. And you are thinking about us in a very detailed way. So I thank you for your response and your time to come out here today.
Councillor St. Pierre.
Through the chair, I've Three questions. One of them, and two of them have to do with comfort of the users. One thing that did come up before was just that the Langford Exchange was a long wait, potentially without washrooms. And I was wondering if that had been addressed. I'll just leave it there for now. and I'll ask.
I can answer that. So infrastructure like that is up to the local government to provide.
Okay.
So it's something that's why it's important to have conversations like this with transit staff. So then we also know on the ground as a local government what we can do to make transit more attractive. So in some cases, there's access to maybe a locked washroom, but that's specifically for the driver, or you see a driver duck in and out of a grocery store. It doesn't do anything for a passenger. So that is a challenge for riders that need to transfer and then wait.
Yeah, the passenger experience is not awesome.
No, so that is something that is on the local government, just like putting in the identifying transit stops, pullouts, that sort of thing.
Okay. So I would hope that we can all work together on that. And it sounds to me like bus stops fall under the same category of being a local government responsibility, but I'm curious about bus stops along Route 14. That would be, I would imagine, the Ministry of Transportation responsibility. Is there any pull to actually get bus stops, because it sometimes rains and it's sometimes windy and it's a pretty miserable experience?
Yeah, great question through the chair. You are correct. Bus stops along Highway 14 do fall within the Ministry of Transportation and Transit's purview. I will say BC Transit does have a shelter program, and we do work with local governments to support improvements to shelters within municipalities. The Ministry of Transportation and Transit has their own, what's it called, minor betterments program that can provide funding for up to $100,000 per project for improvements to transit infrastructure potentially on highways. So that could be an opportunity for District of Sooke staff to try to apply through the minor betterments program to get some improvements to targeted stops along Highway 14. And then of course, ongoing advocacy with Ministry of Transportation and Transit is another avenue. I know we also we pass on the feedback we get. We've heard about a number of stops on Highway 14. I think like fronting the new Macola development as a particular example where I think there's a lot of need. And ultimately though, the ministry needs to step forward to fund with being within their right of way.
Thank you. My last question, if I may. Just curious, given that honestly, youth under the driving, before they can get a license are pretty much always going to be transit users. Maintaining them as transit users makes a lot of sense because they're already in the system, they're already used to using the system. Has there been a lot of conversation with youth and gathering data from them in terms of what would prevent them from hurry up and getting the license in the shortest delay possible so that they can get off the buses?
That's a great question. Through the chair, there are some challenges in engaging with youth, like in terms of we're actually not allowed to directly engage with youth under, I think it's 16 years old without parental approval and guidance. So it is a challenge in terms of how do we get this feedback. We do have a bus ready program that does go out and helps train youth in terms of how to use the bus. And we do receive qualitative feedback, I would say, through those kinds of conversations. And then as well at high schools, we've had opportunities to engage with students to get feedback on how we can improve transit. But it is a bit of a gap, and I don't have the solution at hand, but that's something I think we need to consider in the future is how do we improve youth engagement within our current sort of legislative and policy constraints.
Thank you.
Okay, so thank you very much for being here. I was just going to respond to Councillor Pearson. So I was appointed to the commission in 2016, though used transit pretty regularly from 2006 to about around 2016, actually. And then life changed. To the point about the double deckers, some riders turned into drivers and then others started to ride the bus because the bus frequency, like all the data, when I sit at the commission is all the data comes in. So you can see what the user experience is and where it is. Transit also monitors all of the pass ups. So this is the bus is full and it can't pick anyone up anymore. It's that capacity, where it is, how often that is, and where it's happened. It also monitors all the customer calls. So for a while, there was a lot regarding handy dart service, and that's now improved over time. So while some are driving, others are riding. And we also have a lot of transit staff that live in our community that take the bus at all points of the day that are also having that user experience as well. There was a big change through COVID because in that time, transit could not increase fares or its requisition, but the transit service continued to increase over time. And then, of course, we saw a lot of people move out this way in the whole flight from urban to rural. So that continued to put pressure on the system as a whole. And then in the last few years, there's been an increase because we've never been able, it's been a struggle to keep up with both either dramatic fare increases or dramatic property tax increases, because those are really the two ways that transit is funded from the operational perspective. I was thinking back to when fuel prices spiked, and there was the case where people took the bus, and then there was H1N1 and nobody wanted to take the bus anymore. So this is going back in time, but then suddenly the buses were empty again, back to where we were. That all said, I think the work that transit staff does with our staff from a planning perspective, because they look at where the housing, where the subdivisions happen, then where the development permits are issued, when building permits are issued, and then occupancy, so that the routes can be planned accordingly as best as they can. But we're not the only community that's growing. Langford is growing tremendously. The UVic and student population is growing. CFB Esquimalt is growing. So while we're growing, they're growing significantly faster. So it's always a case of being a bit left behind, although I think the system as a whole is looked at as well as it can be. Would we want to see more? Of course we do. But then how do we pay for all of that? The other challenge at transit has been bus driver retention and recruitment, which seems to be steady, but also heavy duty mechanics. I can't remember how many different types of buses, 10, 15 different types of buses that all mechanics have to be trained to use and repair. The body work is done at the transit yards, but sometimes with parts and tariffs and all of those challenges, parts are delayed. So you'll see a perfectly operational bus that looks like that, but is waiting for parts. So if anyone is looking for a career idea, you may want to consider a transit mechanic. Early start early, finish early, but it's desperately needed because they're very difficult positions to fill. When I talk about our decisions that we make, if we don't allow and plan for transit, there won't be a bus, because where's the bus going to pull over? And when we have taken away those pullouts, there is no bus because there's nowhere for it safely to stop. So that comes down to the decision making, the planning, and you need to plan for ridership because it does show up. And then right now, arguably, we don't have enough service. So it's that ongoing advocacy piece. I think with the current work from home or the hybrid or remote, that is saving us all, including the transit system, a lot of headache and hassle, because a lot of people still have the ability to work from home. Whereas once upon a time, they were all taking the bus. And now they're only going to work maybe on a day of their choosing, particularly with the province, 1 day a week for many, depending on the work. But that is a huge savings for us. What is helping many is the fare, the digital fare. You don't have to wait till the start of the month. You can start your month whenever you decide to start riding your bus. Try it for a little while and see if you like it. That is a huge, for younger people who don't carry cash, that is a huge saving right there. But I think that's really all I have. So again, it's always the case, you always want to have more, but I also recognize, I think in the last several years, there's been more cohesion, more regional consideration around the commission. When I first started, it was always a concern of being outvoted by the core because of there's more people representing core municipalities than way out in Sooke by myself. That sentiment has changed, where there's recognition that the service has to benefit the region as a whole. And we're seeing a lot more of consideration of that. And then I think, yeah, we'll just have to see over time, but the staff are connecting regularly, and sometimes at the commission where it is around setting fares, just to your point about youth, there is a concession fare. So while over 12, you do have to start paying for transit, there's a concession fare. So regular users get quite a discounted fare monthly to use. And many of the riders who know how to do that are already buying into that and use it regularly. So more to come. Keep up the advocacy. I think we have some takeaways that we can use going forward. And we thank you for your time today. Council or members of the public, if there's anything further, please just email that to me. There is a commission meeting, as we just heard, in July, and I can ask those questions at the related commission meeting in the coming month. Thank you for your time
having me.
today. Thank you, everyone. Okay, I'm going to move into section 8.1 is a delegation from the Sooke Soccer Club, field rentals.
Hi, thanks for having me. My name is Pete McKay. I'm the acting vice president of the Sooke Soccer Club and the coach of Sooke Celtic. I'm here to ask the district of Sooke to help the Sooke Soccer Club with financial support to cover a sudden and unexpected field rental cost increase. Sooke Soccer is a longstanding history in Sooke, has existed for over 40 years, longer than I have been around. We currently have approximately 450 members, 350 are kids, and about 100 are adults. The only field that we have access to is owned by the Sooke Community Association and managed by the Fred Milne Group. A few months ago, the Fred Milne Group unexpectedly raised our rent from $16,064 to $52,000, a 214% increase. This new fee is due in January, less than a year from now. The dramatic increase in 1 year is unsustainable for our membership and would make from being one of the cheapest registration rates to being one of the most expensive based on the research we have done compared with other clubs. It is difficult to get research from other clubs because they don't want to be transparent with their financials. It's also none of our business, but from what we've gathered, the Couch and Soccer Club paid approximately $32,000 last year for field rentals and will pay $42,000 this year for their fields. Their club is 4 times the size of ours. Comox get their youth field access for free, and their adult rates are 1/3 of the rate that Fred Milne Group wants to charge us. Another unnamed club that asked me to keep it private pays less than $1,000 a year for their registration. Their club is of comparable size to ours. Increasing registration rates so dramatically is unaffordable for many families in Sooke and would result in a decrease in membership. It is likely that the members that we lose will not play soccer again in the future. We've already got rid of a $50 early bird discount on registration in order to help with this. And our current registration as of today sits at 68 people. Typically, we would have about 200 people registered by now. The Fred Milne Group has said that the increase is needed to help defray future costs associated with the management of the field, replacing lights, eventually replacing the turf. To date, the Sooke Soccer Club has paid for many of the required upgrades. Last year, we paid $50,000 to help replace the lights. That again was an unexpected cost, and we feel like as a user group, we should not necessarily be on the hook for that kind of stuff. We worry that even if we were to pay the $52,000 for access to the pitch, a cost we could only cover one time based on our financial situation. It would entirely consume the existing funds, and we may still be called upon in the future to contribute to future infrastructural upgrades unexpectedly. We have also no guarantee that the increase in field rentals will actually go to Fred Milne Park. The Sooke Community Association and the Fred Milne Group have declined our request to create a written agreement that lays out roles, responsibilities, and user fees related to Fred Milne Park. This makes it very hard, almost impossible, to plan for the future of the club, putting the future of Sooke soccer in jeopardy. I've played soccer in Sooke since 1990. I've been a volunteer coach with the club for over 20 years. I know firsthand the importance of this sport in our community, socially for our players and their families, for their mental and physical well-being of the Sooke youth, and for the development of leadership and teamwork skills. This is a sport that gets kids outside, off their phones, working together towards a common goal. The popularity of the sport is only increasing with Canada's hosting of the Men's World Cup, and it will be such a shame for the Sooke Soccer to lose its club now just as it stands to grow. We are asking the municipality to step in and help us navigate our effective loss of access to Fred Milne Park, as of right now, the only turf field in town. I see 3 options, and I'm open to your suggestions as well, and would really appreciate your leadership. First option is to create a community services agreement with the Fred Milne Group and the Sooke Community Association in order to maintain fair access for Sooke soccer at an affordable rate, similar to the agreement signed with the district to manage access to the community hall. Another option is an annual grant to Sooke Soccer of $36,003 to cover this increased rental cost. A third option that I propose is that the district explores the option of building a District of Sooke and Sea Park owned facility, which they operate. Local governments across the island own and operate many of the sports fields that teams use and clubs use, and we think that Sooke should also explore this. Our current financial situation is that we have $40,000 in our bank account. $25,000 of that is in a GIC. Obviously, we need a buffer to operate the club, and we feel like this would devastate our savings. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much for your delegation today. We have the information here. So what we'll do is when we get to new business, that'll be an opportunity for a member of council to put a motion forward. Just that's sort of the process that we have.
Do you have any questions for me while I'm here?
Anything while our delegation is here? Councillor Beddoes?
Yeah, you've given us a couple of some information here. I just want to clarify when you, I don't know where you have it in front of you.
I do.
We don't have it here, but you've got your age groups, U6, for instance, and U8 and all that sort of stuff. And the red on the right, is that what, with the new increase, that what you would have to charge, right? You went from 250, say U7, you went from 250 to 300. So
yeah, so that is what we are currently will be charging for this upcoming season. And that still leaves us $36,000 short. We plan.
There would be another bump after this. I wasn't sure whether that 300 is included with that bump for the.
I would say like ballpark, we've raised registration $50 per person. We've also eliminated the $50 early bird registration. So basically $100 per person. And if we were to meet this $36,000, we would have to raise it another $100 in addition to that.
So you would have to, so in U7, you would have to go to $400.
Yeah.
And I see Wanda Fuca charges $450 for their fields.
Yeah.
And then Saanich is $375. So it's pretty close to it. Okay, I just wanted to I wasn't quite sure what the red numbers meant, but that's what you're going to, and it's 27, 28 is when you have to make a
26, 27 will be what that red registration number.
But 27, 28, you have to account for the extra 30,000 in the field.
No, that is based on this current season. However, we don't pay them until January. The season coming up, 26, 27.
Okay, then 27, 28. What do you anticipate that be?
We're asking for financial help from you guys. We've been told to apply for grants and look for sponsorship, which of course is unreliable and unpredictable. But if we, like I said, with our registration numbers being at 68, when we usually are at 200, if we have a decrease in membership, then we would have to raise registration rates to $300 per person, I suppose. But at some point, people don't play in Sooke, they go play somewhere else because it's ridiculous.
Yeah, it's a tough one. I just, I spoke to somebody from the community association and it's kind of an odd reply. I won't mention names, of course, but they said that, you've had a very good ride over the years at a very subsidized rate and it's just coming back to reality. So I didn't get a good feeling that they were about to move on anything.
Yeah, I guess I would say to that what we have been charged in the past was not our decision. And if we were undercharged, it was not our fault.
Okay.
I would also say that to compare us with Wanda Fuca, which seems to be the comparison, the highest comparison that the Community Association in Fred has used, when the lights burn out on those fields, they're not paid for by the soccer club. So for us to be shelling out $50,000 to fix the lights, and then an unexpected increase of 217%.
I can understand your concern.
Yeah. And also there's been turnover. Every 2 years, there's a new president in our club. I'm an acting because nobody else will step into the position. So it's not like you have a consistency in leadership and council that has made decisions to plan for 10 years from now, right?
Sure.
So,
okay, I just want to make sure I understood the figures in front of me.
Yeah.
You explained that. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you very much.
Yeah, I have a question. Thank you for coming tonight. I'm curious about the Fred Milne Group. Now you say it's an organization run by the Community Association. How does that group operate? And
I don't have their much experience with the group. As I understand, the community association owns the fields and the Feldbone Group is a society that operates the fields. They have a executive. Sooke Soccer gets 2 spots on the executive. When this field rental increase was approved, our representatives were not at that meeting. We, I guess, notified them the day before that we would be unable to be there. However, the group still decided to go forward with the $52,000. So I would say it's very challenging to be involved in this sort of thing. It's very unpredictable for us. It's frustrating. We lose a lot of volunteers.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah,
Okay, thank you for presenting today.
thank you.
Okay, council, so we'll move on to the consent agenda, which is item 9. So there's 9.1, and that is that the following items on the consent agenda be adopted by consent. 9.2, correspondence. 9.3 is the report of the chief administrative officer. 9.4, draft land use and development committee minutes. 9.5, short-term rental accommodation modernization zoning amendment bylaw number 947, 600-120, 2026. 9.6, wastewater bylaw. Move consent by Councillor St. Pierre, seconded by Councillor Beddoes. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor then? Any opposed? And that's carried unanimously. So we'll move on to item 10, which is our report section, starting with 10.1, which is the Throop Road, Phillips Road Connection Project. Over to staff, please.
Burning bad habits, apparently. This report was created because there was additional information required on CP5, specifically at looking at different right-of-way lengths and what possible impacts that could have on savings and also future costs as we go along. So this is CP5, and this is a design at 25 meters right away. So that's the full cross section. And it shows the roundabout as well because that is part of CP5. Information, though wasn't asked for in the original recommendation from May, was included just for discussion purposes if council wishes to see that. It is the only part of the potential connector all the way from the west side of Sooke that doesn't have any infrastructure built on it. We're looking at a diversion of about 30% off of Highway 14 going up Phillips and across. So based off of numbers from 2018, that would be roughly around 6,000 vehicles per day. And remembering that there is also a supply coming from the north from Sun River as well, that also feeds into that. And 25 was chosen because of the master transportation plan. There was 2 arterial. Yes, that word. Cross sections created in there, one at 25, one at 20. And the main difference is when you look at the 25, there's a green stretch down the middle that could be a medium or it could be a left-hand turn lane. As we're proceeding with the 25-meter right-of-way when we did Wadham, and as we go further towards the west, there's sufficient space to have a 25-meter right-of-way. The center lane, depending on what's built there, also provides another access for emergency vehicles to travel that road corridor. So this is the 25-meter right-of-way with all the full surface works. So that was the cost that you saw a lot in May. So 2 lanes, sidewalks, multi-use trails, urban forest, stormwater management. So this design will provide you with the highest level of capacity and minimize the needs for future construction. And again, provides locations for all forms of multimodal transportation. We then looked at a 25-meter right-of-way, but with reduced surface work. So essentially going down to just 2 travel lanes and a multi-use bike trail or walking trail. The trick here would be to make sure we put one of the curbs where it needs to be for future expansion. So we could save the cost of ripping up that curb and gutter as we go to expand it. They start to look very similar, but again, you get the idea of with a 20-meter right-of-way. Again, it is with the reduced surface works. It is one of the types we consider for arterial. But again, as you look into the future and you start to think you might want to expand this road out to its full extent, you would then have to go purchase that right away and do whatever construction is required along the way. Depending on where it is, you may or may not have to close the road, which if we have trained people to use it and 30% is being diverted onto it, could cause quite a change in our traffic patterns. The 15-meter right-of-way is more a right-of-way that we would designate for a local road, either in an urban or a rural setting. It's not really a standard for this type of road. We're still teasing it out to see if there would be any conflicts with any underground infrastructure we have to put in there. We are looking at least a water main, possibly BC Hydro and Fortis as well. So, and the storm and the water have to be separated by at least 3 meters. And if we ever think of putting it in sanitary, there may or may not be space within that right of way. And again, to go from 15 to 25, if you wanted to go to full build out, there's a cost associated with that in future dollars. This is the engineer deciding to kind of show some of the difficulties we're going to face in CP5. Unlike Grant Road East, which is fairly flat, this is a ravine. It does have slopes on it. So we will have to do a cut and fill scenario. Normally you try to get a balance between your cuts and your fills so you don't have to import material. Unfortunately, that is not the case here because we are also allowing for approximately 30% spoilage because of possible contamination or arc potential. But that is basically what we're facing when we do a road profile. Included the roundabout, just because it is part of CP5 and it is to do with the purchase of land. This is the design we're going for. That traffic circle, the asphalt part, is approximately 18 meters diameter, which is basically comparable to Church and our downtown roundabout. The extra area is more for other forms of transportation, whether it be walking, crosswalks and such. That's what increases it. We did look at 3 other scenarios. They all involve either a very simple T intersection or a modified T intersection. The difficulty we have here is normally your major or your through roads that forms the top of the T, and the minor road is the stem. In this case, that's not, it's the stem and one of the T tops. while there's a lot of people coming out of Sun River, it would still be considered the minor road. So you would go from an intersection basically as a simple T with stop signs to starting to be a little more complex intersection with turning lanes, but with lights, and then you would end up with something to deal with trying to get that traffic to flow better on the connector. The nearest example I could find, if you reach back to Wales and Goldstream, that's would be a similar type of intersection. The problem with all those, within 5 to 10 years, we're going to start to see a drop in the level of service of trying to move vehicles through that. Just as a point of interest, Colwood is now starting to look at putting a roundabout at Wales and Goldstream because they had the opportunity when they first built it and chose not to do it. And now they're facing far higher costs, especially now that the area is being developed out. The one interesting thing about, while the roundabout looks like it takes a lot of space, once you start adding turning lanes, controlled intersections and such, our land requirement uses become very similar to each other. Now, the good news is we do own a bit of land within CP5. We have a 20-meter right-of-way in front of a certain number of properties that ends up being about 9,910 square meters. We need about 7,000 from CRD and about 1,500 from private. So we need a total of about 9,270. Based off of discussions and looking at what land costs, this would translate into roughly $700,000. And that's more of an order of magnitude than an actual me telling you it's going to cost 700,000, because there will be some negotiation and land assessment as we move forward with it. And again, timing would be part of the issue as well. So this table is trying to give you an understanding of, as you reduce that cross section, how much savings do you have, first for the surface works and then for the earthworks. So if you look at the difference from S1 to S2, it's approximately $2.3 million you save by not building the full surface cross section out. That 2.3 million is translated into S3 and S4, and the difference now is you're not putting as much imported fill back in to create the right of way. The part that kind of throws the numbers off as we start to decrease the volumes, we start to lose any advantages we might have had for order of magnitude for moving that amount of dirt. So I take those with a grain of salt. And I did give you an idea of what, if you wanted to increase this roundabout back up to 25, to go from 20 would be in, again, order of magnitude of 13.5 million, to go up to 25, 20.2 million. And please keep in mind that those are 2026 dollars. So 5 years from now, with the way the construction indices for Vancouver and Victoria continue to go up, they have not slowed down yet. So those numbers might be a little on the low side by the time we get back there to fix it. And I guess the other part too is this council would then handcuff another council to make that decision whether or not they would like to do that. And if the costs are significant, might not go forward with the project. And our last table here just gives a rough look at what our annual payment will be. So it's all floating around 1.3 to 1.8 million. And you see the tax increases, that was based off 2026 tax increase. So that number might change as we move into future budget items. And again, the annual tax increase and the monthly one is again based off of 2026 because those, otherwise I'd be making up numbers. And with that, I am available for questions.
Okay, thank you. So what I will do is put forward the motion first off to start this, which would be that council receive the Phillips Road Connection Project Report for information. Moved by Councillor St. Pierre and seconded by Councillor Haldane. And so questions, go ahead, Councillor St. Pierre, and then just as we are sitting as council, at any time, anyone can put an amendment forward or wait to do a separate motion. Go ahead, Councillor St. Pierre.
Okay, I'll start through your worship. Just a quick question in terms of the right of way. I'm just curious about the electric lines. Are we looking eventually at putting some conduits there? Because I know that you've got the poles just a little further down the line. I'm assuming we're getting set to put stuff underground. Is that some of what's being considered in the costs?
To your worship, to the councillor, yes, the underground costs were part of this project.
Okay, Councillor Haldane.
Yeah, I got a couple of things. So it talks about roundabout intersections and they're in our Sooke's roundabout first policy or whatever. But in the policy, it also says the elevation should consider traffic operations, intersection geometry, drainage, and right-of-way identification. There's a 10-meter drop or better between the arena and where the neighbor's property is, where we're going to want to have the roundabout go out to. That's 33 feet plus in topography difference. So I think in this case here, I get that a roundabout is our preferred way to go, but most of the times a roundabout's not being built on such a steep slope hill. So retention is going to be expected for that. And just asking some engineering people that I have access to, I mean, we're talking about huge amounts of money. We're talking about a $1 million wall there. Plus, if we put the roundabout in there and put this wall up, we also have to put a new driveway in for the people that own the property down below that would be requiring 1.5 acres or whatever from them. So if we do that, that's going to be another huge expense because you got a 10-meter wall and then you've got a driveway that has to come down across through their property. So there'll be another wall on the bottom side. So these are things I don't believe that we've really taken into consideration yet because we're looking at just a very generic general plan. So the costs are going to get, I mean, crazy as far as I can see. The staff report states that 1.2 million for walls and property acquisition. And that was last time we were here and that was the staff report. And I don't believe, again, and I mentioned it at that time, that it's possible for doing it within those parameters. So, I mean, I appreciate these tax increases and stuff, which I still don't think are, palpable for Sooke people. I mean, the lowest one's almost 10% and it goes up from there. So we're running into more issues with more and more cost. We got here the whole road network from Phillips to West Coast Road along Grant Road shows an ultimate design, but then Grant Road, which is the biggest component of it, is not an ultimate design. It's an interim design at best because all we have is a couple lanes of traffic and so on. But yet we're talking here that where our expectations are only to do the ultimate build out because it's going to save money down the road or whatever. Well, Grant Road's not being considered in any kind of a build out, and it's the biggest portion of the whole thing. Lastly, I got the cross section today in the report, and in the report, and this comes from last summer. So it says the main difference between an arterial 20-meter and 25-meter cross section is the arterial 25-meter allows for a center turning lane. This additional lane is essential for keeping vehicle movement at its highest level. With the turning lane, left-hand turns can be executed when entering and exiting from the road corridor with minimal backup in the main travel lanes. We don't have any middle lane on any of these cross sections, but this was in the last one. So I don't understand why we wouldn't have a third option here that shows the middle lane for turning, because once you start getting people on that road and they want to go to one way or the other, and or the people that are gonna wanna come down the road and turn up to Sun River are gonna need somewhere else without blocking all that traffic from continuing through. This is if we go to an intersection with a stop sign, of course, because I don't believe we're gonna ever come up with the money to afford a roundabout there. But the point is, we were given a third cross section of in the 25-meter in our first report, and that's this report right here. But we didn't put one in the report that we have today. So I'm just wondering through the chair if there's an option for that, or if you're gonna add one, or where we're at with that.
Okay.
Your worship, through the counselor, I'd have to go back to refresh my memory on the May 22nd, what I presented to council. Because it's not coming to my knowledge right off the bat. Just for some clarification, this design was done at the 60% mark. So we had done fairly substantial engineering. So the costs for the retaining walls and moving the earth are fairly accurate. So those are not, it wasn't just a line drawn on the piece of paper with an estimate that came from it. There was some thought put behind where it was. And I would have to get back to, sorry, the turning lane, when you look at the drawings as it is now, it shows it as a full medium. I'm not sure why my predecessor had decided that was the way to go. My preference would be to take that lane out and just maybe put islands in where it is appropriate and have that center lane either as cross hatches or small islands along the way, something, I'm trying to think of an example, say like on what you see on Esquimalt Road or Craigflower Road. So fire trucks and police ambulance do have an opening to get around buses or other traffic that's stopped. And I think in my report, there's a number of approximately $500,000 that if you got rid of the continuous island and went down to intermediate islands, you would save that amount of money. And again, you could save even more money if you decided not to put vegetation on, because vegetation requires irrigation. If they were hard surfaces, then their maintenance costs go way down.
Well,
And one last one for intersections, this would be their first, if we went with a signalized intersection, that would be the first one we have in Sooke. But there are maintenance costs that go along with that and replacement of that infrastructure within 10 or 20 years, depending on how it goes. So there would be a further long-term cost to go along with a signalized intersection that we don't have now.
And in your report here, because you were just saying how accurate it is, it says this cost estimate is considered a Class D cost estimate due to the time restraints to model the cut and fill amounts, so on. Well, Class D isn't as accurate as a Class A, obviously. So what goes after Class D? Is there an E or F?
Through your worship to the counselor, the reason why I said it was a Class D was because we could not model it within the time frame we had available to come back to this council with that number. So I had to come up with an estimate that tried to approximate the cut and fill amounts for the reduced scenarios. If I had more time, I could have gone back to our consultant and they could have modeled it and come back with an even better number than what I came back with, but time was against me and I couldn't do that.
Absolutely, yeah. Correct. Okay, I'm good. Thank you.
Councillor Bateman?
Okay, thanks for the report. A few questions. So a Class D estimate is plus or minus 20 to 30%. Is that correct in the guesstimate?
Your worship, to the counselor, normally it's a Class D is about 50%, give or take.
50.
Again, I called it a Class D because of the uncertainty that went along with it. This is probably closer to a C, but I didn't want to give a false illusion of what that cost would be.
That's good. Okay, so we're looking at this very daunting slide here, costs. Now, I think a key factor here is this is over 30 years, right? It's a 30-year repayment at 4.2% or whatever that percentage was, 4.71%. Yes, so that's not a question. It's interesting to me. So I did some calculations, and it would seem if we went with S1 over 30 years, that's $7,560 per average assessed household. And option 4 at the 15.2 would be $5,659. However, those 30 years from now, things may well have. Once the project's complete, we're locked in at those numbers.
Your worship, through the councillor, the way borrowing works with MFA is
5 years, 10 years renewal.
no, it's basically you is it 5? Yeah, you would get the opportunity to renew that interest rate. And the 4.71 was what it was on the day that the director of finance and I looked at it. It could be
Yes.
something higher, it could be something lower.
Right.
And that's a chance you take from borrowing long-term with MFA. There's a 50% chance that it could be lower too.
Yes, yes. So fingers are crossed. The average daily traffic, can you go back to that slide for me? Okay, well, okay, that's fine. So I'm just curious, these are numbers from 2018. Do we not have anything more up to date?
We haven't modeled it at that point. Again, that is an exercise that will involve a fair amount of cost.
Right.
For the purposes of looking at what is the potential diversion, it was felt that we should use the 2018 numbers that were presented in the 2020 master transportation plan. It might be higher, it might be a little less, again. And you gotta remember, that is the number base coming into Sooke. Once you start adding Sun River onto the Highway 14 traffic, it increases by a couple hundred. That might not go to the highway anymore because they would have a different.
Okay, so these 17,400, I do note in the transportation master plan, it states Highway 14 experiences traffic volumes up to 20,000 vehicles per day. And so, yeah, again, it would be great to have that actual clarity. I know at today's CRD meeting, the workshop, the new transportation service will be very data centric, and it will be able to provide us with much more accurate in the moment data. Difficult to make as a tax paying voter on October 17th. It'd be great to know exactly what kind of, so 30% of the ADT. Okay, in the master plan, ideally, we would be acquiring the remaining land for future generations at that 25-meter width. You are recommending that as option 1 among the 4 that you presented tonight.
To your worship, to the councillor, my preference would be option 1, but I haven't made a recommendation to council. That was going to be a discussion that council was going to give direction.
Of course.
To what size of right of way they wanted to have. But as the director of operations, my preference would be to have 25 to kind of future-proof it as we go forward and not have to deal with the problem later on.
Yeah. The danger, as you've cited, the danger of not doing the full width now is that, again, 13 or $20 million more would be required to build out to the full. If in 2050, this community of 28,000 people requires a full 25-meter cross-section, that would, you're saying $20 million if we were to go from 15.2 to 25.
Your worship, through the counselor, that is my estimate.
Yes.
Again, it's in 2026 dollars. As to when you do it, more, it will be fairly expensive because you will still have to gain access down to the toe of the embankment.
Yeah.
You're working in a confined space, and again, there's the possibility, in order to do this, that the road might have to be closed, which then pushes the traffic back to Highway 14.
And we don't like road closures in this community. Yeah. Okay, that's it.
Okay, thank you. Other questions or comments from members of council? We're on receiving for info. Councillor Pearson.
Thank you through the chair. Some of my questions actually have been answered, I think, by Councillor Haldane. So I think we talked in May about that the center lane was essential, and I think you've covered that, that seemed like that was a no. We weren't going to deter from that because that was the best case scenario, was that center lane. So, and I didn't see that in the cross sections today. The, is that price, does that include the roundabout?
Your worship, to the counselor, yes, it does include the roundabout.
Okay. You also talked briefly about a T intersection. Also, I've come into a report from somebody that did a report somewhere around 2008 about a lane from west, or from Sooke Road flowing through and stopping at there either by a traffic light or a stop sign, probably a traffic light coming out of Sun River, so that it would continually flow. That was talked about by, I'm trying to think of the engineering company that did that the first time. Watt Engineering, I think, is our Watt traffic study. So is it still possible that we could build a safe, good road with a T-like intersection with, with a bike lane, a travel lane in the middle, or a turning lane and a travel lane in each way, as well as a sidewalk on a 20-meter right of way, and exclude this roundabout at this time? And I, I'm asking that is that possible that we could do that? Because I mean, we've been talking about this since 2008. It got turned down in 2008, I think, is actually
2004, 5.
Yes, but again, it came back up and it's come up. Here we are. It was designed, it was ready to go in 2005. I think there was shovel-ready project, and here we are. We've spent at last hundreds, thousands of dollars in design, hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars in design, and yet feels like we're not getting any closer. And we're selecting, I think, the ultimate road build out. Is there a way for us to get traffic flowing safely, people walking safely, using a T intersection without that roundabout? Because I think that's giving me a lot of heartburn. Can we do it on a 20-meter right of way? Like I've heard what you said, and I think I agree we should try and get everything we can, but with 20 meters, can we build it safely, effectively, and for a reduced price? I know that's a loaded question, but I have to ask it.
Worship, through the counselor, I think I remember the intersection you described. What was unique about that one, if you were traveling east, you had no way to turn into Sun River. So that would be one of the issues. The problem with T intersections is you get your worst type of accidents happening on them. So if if you had a T intersection controlled by stop signs, because people are impatient, your accidents go to more head-ons and T-bones as they go along. As you go for a sweep or intersection type look at, you get more rear ending because people are not paying attention and the light changes. With the roundabout, it provides traffic, an avenue to flow. When two cars do collide with each other, they're more glancing, they're then direct on because of how they feed in. So from a safety standpoint, this roundabout provides a greater flexibility. As we go into a signalized intersection, that timing does not change. So if it's set up to go this way, that way, this way, every 5 minutes, that's what it's going to happen. If you all of a sudden have a large amount of traffic diverted into that intersection, it doesn't care that there's no one coming out of Sun River. It's still going to stop the other 2 lanes of traffic so they can do their traffic movement. Whereas with a traffic circle, there's always continuous movement. I think I would have a problem getting an engineer to authenticate an T intersection, a simple T intersection with stop signs. Because one of the rules engineers have to face is protection of the public. And we're creating an intersection that could be fairly dangerous. I'm sure ICBC would not be happy with us. As we go up into intersections, it reduce, they probably would design an intersection because they're very commonplace. They do work. Again, ICBC probably would prefer to see the roundabout because again, what they're going to see in accidents are the less severe type of accidents and injuries that happen to drivers. The intersection area will always be a little bigger than 20 or 25 because we're now adding, most likely we would need to have turning lanes on all the legs. So now there's at least 3 lanes each direction. And depending on whether or not you sweep it in order to get traffic to go from Phillips to Thrope, that might take space. So that's why in the report, it talks about basically having the same land requirements as both of them. And again, elevation wise, we're still going to have to build retaining walls to match that, even with the traffic, same as what we would have to do with a circle.
Okay, so you're not quite recommending, but it sounds pretty hard that you're saying it. So my, and as a counselor sitting here listening, is there a way that we can reduce this cost? Because though, I mean, what is it? Starts at 9.41 to 12.58%, including that roundabout. Is there a safe way? That's, I think my question asks, is there a safe way to create that intersection? And I'm not suggesting a stop sign. I'm thinking that it has to be traffic control by a light or something like that. Is there a safe way to do that and cut that cost significantly? Like, and I get the degree of safety and I appreciate that. Just because a traffic light probably costs $350,000 or $400,000. I think we've been told that in the past, and that this roundabout's going to be 3 million probably, right? Or 4 million.
Through your worship, to the counselor, I'd have to go back and confirm what the price is, but it wasn't in the 3 million range. You have to remember that it's just basically concrete and asphalt. The controller and the traffic lights become a maintenance concern. They might be initially cheaper. They might not. Controllers are in the $100,000 range, give or take some, and have to be replaced every 25 to 30 years, depending on how they're used and abused. The poles, again, because we do salt the roads, they do at some point experienced salt fatigue and failure, and we might have to replace them. And speaking of accidents, the first thing that's hit in an intersection when someone loses control is the traffic lights. So there probably would be some savings maybe in the capital side, but on the other side, as we move forward into maintenance over the life of this road, I think you would see an increased maintenance cost that we don't have right now.
Okay, I'm going to move on to Counselor Beddoes, then myself, and then we'll start round two.
Yeah, through your chair to Mr. Miller. Thank you for all that wealth of information. Lots to think about. I just wanted to go over very quickly that when it came to the 25-meter right of way, you talked about the district owning 9910 square meters, CRD 7 and private is 1,500, and the cost about what we'd have to buy would be $700,000. Did I hear that correct?
Through your worship to the counselor, that is my estimate based off of what I understand of land prices right now.
Okay, that's excellent. That's what I wanted to hear. I wasn't quite sure what the case. You know, I understand it could change slightly. Now, the other thing, of course, is that you know, we're looking, if you look at S2, the 25 meters, and I think it'd be silly for us not to go for the 25 meters because it costs us $700,000 more. Is $25 million. And if we had this drawn out and applied for grants, but you need to have it drawn out at that 25 million and then apply for grants. Because I don't see us going anywhere unless we get some grants on that. But in the world today, I know we lost the big one, but is there still grants available from the feds? Nothing?
Your worship, through the counselor, there's always bids coming out or grants coming out. In fact, we just received some possible ones. We haven't given up hope on the grants we have already put in. There's money still potentially coming towards us, but every day we don't hear something, it becomes less and less probable. Again, from our discussions, say with the CRD this morning, no one's really seen a grant that doesn't involve active transportation. So we would have to include some form of active transportation to even be eligible for the grant.
So
these drawings are
under there.
These drawings are at 60% design, which was sufficient to tell the funders that we are serious about this project. We're moving forward. This is something that's a high priority to the community. So if another one does come up and I have the drawings ready to go at 25 or 20, whatever council directs, we would be in that shovel ready category.
Okay, that's where I was leading to with if the fact that let's say we did do S2 reduced $25 million and then you had that shovel ready, then we're eligible for grants. But we can't go with our present estimates because it's for the whole build out at $50 million. So we would have to reapply. Is that correct?
Your worship, through the counselor, the grants we have already applied for, if we do get them, we'll have to go back and renegotiate with the funders and show them that we have a reduced scope. They may or may not allow that. But as we go forward and we have these shovel-ready projects, that was what we would apply for.
Okay.
And depending on what the cost share is, would be how much we would have to come up with as the district.
Okay, I appreciate that. Thanks very much.
Okay, thank you, everyone. I'm just looking at the grant that opened, Build Community Strong Fund. Shovel ready and able to begin before the end of 2026. preference given to projects that are ready to start construction during the upcoming summer construction season. Local infrastructure like community buildings and spaces, recreation, sport and park facilities, natural water assets, wastewater assets, stormwater management assets, climate adaptation projects, regionally significant projects. So I don't know, I guess you would always try and see if it fits the criteria. I'll save my opinion on that. Sure.
To your worship,
Yeah, I'm not done yet, Tony, but I'll come to you.
Mr. Miller, I believe your predecessor had designed a third lane going from the bridge up to Charters Road. We've got some money from the MOTT to do that. Is that correct? Am I remembering that right? Do we have a design of that?
Your worship, through the counselor, we are working with MOTT for the construction of an intersection at Highway 14 and Charters. There was some funding available for the last section of Charters that wasn't done because you need the intersection to be built before you can build that last section.
Okay, because I was under the impression that there was a design for third lane, they called it a bus lane, but would come up from Phillips Road up to Charters. So you would have the traffic would split into two lanes, go up to Charters and over that way. That hasn't been done?
That one I would have to go back and check. I have not seen any plans for a bus lane on Highway 14.
I believe
We can, I'm,
Okay.
I'm,
All right,
I'm
I
taking the floor back.
Okay.
That's something to look into. No, thank you for the report on this. I don't feel that we're ready to, we're just on receiving for information, but there's still a lot of unknowns in terms of gearing up for a borrowing on this year's ballot. My only concern with applying for grants is we're not the only community applying for grants and we don't have our share and we don't know what we're doing. So it doesn't, I don't want to not have us receive a fund, but given there's other things that we are likely shovel ready on and could go, those should be the priority at this stage because we're not organized at this point. When we talk a little, like just going back to a previous road design, I did a walk through history as I always do. Sun River was approved in 2003 and 2004. The first residents may be moving in 2004, 5, somewhere in there. 2006 was at phase 2 of a 715 unit build out. And I'm raising this because those residents today would have had no input into the road, would not have been eligible to even vote at the time of 2005 on a road, and certainly would not have been able to provide any input because they weren't living in that area. The houses were not built at that time. The subdivision from what was proposed to what it is today changed. At that point, 715 units always remain the same, but suites were only permitted on units or lots that were 550 square meters or more and had approval. Now all lots can have suites. So the population is greater than it was originally forecasted. There's also a high density zone and a small lot zone. I'm just sharing that because when this road design was built with a T intersection being okay, it did not account for the future of anyone living up in Sun River and beyond, and nor did it account for the other subdivisions that are past Sun River that exist there today. Also probably didn't think about an allotment garden or a Ravens Ridge Park or anything else. Just simply didn't happen because it didn't exist. So when I hear of a potential T intersection here, being that I live in that particular area, it just sort of makes me shudder a bit because it'll be a downright fail. I just don't see that working at all. And if it's going to be a choice between a T intersection and a stoplight, like many residents have commented on how wonderful the stoplight at Phillips and Sooke Road is, because sometimes it just doesn't work at all. Just doesn't work. It blinks on and off or it shuts down and nobody seems to remember the rules of an intersection when it doesn't work. You have to do a complete 4-way stop. And so then you sit there and turn right and go up to the roundabout and loop around to try to turn left because it would be impossible otherwise. Sea Park is also extremely busy. There is no programmable time left except for maybe during school hours when the ice is in. Otherwise, every space of that facility is completely booked. There's now a gym. It's a high user site doing a tremendous job. So you just have all this commuting traffic. Like, I don't know, like you would just be sitting there stuck and then it would back up. All the traffic, if it's 30% and the light is stopped or someone doesn't know if it's their turn or not, it's just going to back all the way down the highway. And then that'll just continue to build with the Casinos traffic. And it's just another bog down because it won't move. It'll just be stuck. There was a lot of people using different modes to travel in and out and around our town. I see that as being a complete fail. So I won't support anything other than building it right the first time, or not at all. Just don't bother doing it at all. I think that's an option. 30 years of debt to offload 30% of traffic. What about other things that our community needs? Is it worth it? I don't know. I'm not sure. We've heard from a delegation today about the cost of taxes. You can reduce that, but if you sign up for this, you're still going to pay 30 years of debt. There's no way of reducing that. You'll just have to service it till it's paid out. And nothing else will happen. I hear from Grant Road residents, like, when are we going to find money to fix the situation on Grant Road West? What about Whiffen Spit? What about Ella Road? Other points that are failing. Sea Park has growing needs. It's long overdue for a second seat of ice there, as well as significant replacements to the floor. We're hearing how strapped our soccer field is. So I think it's just a question of, again, another road to offset 30% of traffic and building out a complete failure point. The example of the T intersections that exist are on Wadhams Road. When you are traveling out of the library and you want to make a left-hand turn on Otter Point when all the commuting traffic is coming home, how easy and safe is that? Is it? What about when you turn on to, let's say you're going down Wadhams and you want to turn left onto Church Road and all the traffic is flowing up? The traffic all backlogs all the time. Or when school is out and all the traffic is flowing down, you just sit there and you wait. Or what people do is they turn right, they go down to Goodmere and they turn around and loop back rather than trying to make the sketchy left turn because it doesn't work, or avoid it completely, like many of us do. Another T intersection coming up Grant Road onto Otter Point Road. That's got to be everyone's favorite T intersection. Isn't that just a great intersection right there, turning from Grant to make a left on Otter Point? It's terrible. Nobody likes to do it. So you don't do it. So now we're going to build a road that no one's going to use, given the state of all the other roads. I think there's other traffic improvements that require attention. And unfortunately, this is very expensive and it'll just push everything down the road and will be another 20 years and council sitting there wondering why Grant Road has never been fixed. Or you can shortcut it and make it super sketchy, add in the volumes of school-age children, all the users of Sea Park, everyone that visits on an e-bike coming into our visitor center. And yeah, I'll leave it at that. I don't have any questions. I think there's a lot of unanswered questions in terms of today and where we move forward from this is, we're receiving for information, that's fine. So we'll move that. And then I think the next point is a discussion around what do you want to direct staff to focus on, and then leave it from there. But I'm just a bit concerned, and I think we're just reacting from, given everything I've heard in the community about safety on our roads, and to actually do something to make a safe improvement, it's like we're just ignoring all of that feedback. Everything I've heard just doesn't matter. Well, to me, it does matter a great deal. Okay. Starting off round two. Counselor St. Pierre, you have the floor.
Thank you. My first question actually is with regards to the motions that are in front of us. And we got one here that council directs staff to negotiate with the necessary private property owners for the acquisition of various land parcel segments. Need to complete the through road, the through road Phillips Road connector based on the approved cross section of however many meters, let's say 25 for now. What does this actually mean in terms of accountability? Are we locked into anything? Are we locked into agreements with potential landowners? Are we locked into a position where we have to pay the money? Or is this simply giving staff the ability to start negotiating these things so that we have a little more certainty? What are we looking at here?
Your worship, through the counselor, giving direction to negotiate is just that. It allows me to start the negotiation process and come to some conclusion to what land would possibly cost. So with respect to the CRD, it would be a series of discussions to find out what that value would be. And then that would come back to council and say, this is the best deal I can get from them. And then it would have to go into whatever year's budget that would made sense to do. So right now, because of the election, CRD will not even discuss land disposition at this point. So the soonest I could possibly start those serious discussions is in 2027. Whether or not it would be ready for the 2027 budget depends on how hard of negotiations it might be. So council might not see that number until 2028, but there would be at least an understanding between the CRD and the district that we are looking kind of a right of first refusal. Right now, from my take from it, the CRD acknowledges that this is we want this land for a right of way, but has also been stated, they're also strapped for space. If they feel that we're not going forward, it's fully within their scope of work, purview to decide not to sell us the land. And as they are a senior level of government, there's no way we can force them to sell the land to us. So that is just something to keep in mind with the private landowners. It would start off with negotiation. If they shot for the moon, the stars and the sun, which were totally out of reach of the district, like $1 million a square foot, then I would be coming back to council and saying, here's fair market value for this land, and we have to go through the expropriation process.
Thank you for that. So it sounds like it wouldn't hold this council at this point in time to any financial risks, because that would actually come down to the referendum, but would allow you to begin negotiations and get better ideas of what the costs might be. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, so following up on that, I agree with our mayor. I think the difference between 20 and 27 million, it's huge sticker shock, no matter what. And it basically ties down almost an entire borrowing capacity, no matter what. And I think it's up to our residents who have said they would like something done about the traffic to decide if they actually want to spend that kind of money or want us to spend that kind of money. Meanwhile, using the cheaper options basically seems to lock us down in terms of, first of all, if you don't get the turning lane in the middle, you're slowing down traffic. If you don't get the roundabout, you're slowing down traffic. If you put in signalized intersections, you're increasing the cost over time and slowing down traffic. And what we've been asked to do is to speed traffic up. Not only that, but my feeling is that because we have good weather, I don't know how 800,000 ever became low real estate prices, but it seems that it is. Many disagree, but some of the lower property taxes. And because we also have limited services, retail, and jobs locally available, our roads are going to get more and more crowded. So if we cheap out on this, I don't know how quickly it's going to fail. And then it's extremely expensive to redo, as I understand it. So I think it's penny wise, pound foolish. You present the public with the information, let them make a decision. And if they decide they don't want it, that's cool. But meanwhile, we also have more ammunition to go to the province and say, we've done everything we could. We've gone a referendum. We've done everything we can. And guess what? It's your highway and it's getting choked. So do something. Sorry, just saying. I guess that's all I have to say for now. Thank you.
Okay, there's been a request for a break. So it's 8 o'clock, so I'm gonna start after the recess, after 10 minutes, and start with Counselor Haldane. So it's currently, what time is it? 8:09, so we'll reconvene at 8:20. Perfect, thank you. Okay, welcome back, everyone. It's 8:20, so we'll continue on with our meeting tonight, and we will go over to Councillor Haldane, please.
Thank you very much. Just to cover a couple of things that came up there with the key intersections, and I understand it, but Wadham's Way has two of them. There's no big accidents going on Wadham's Way at either end. And if you could talk to the police, get them to put out a report on it, and I'll bet you find out that, and those roads are as busy or busier than what we're gonna run into on the Phillips Road component in my mind. So the other underlying issue is that we don't have the land. So this 9,700 or 9,900 or whatever square meters that we're still missing. The whole idea is we need that land in order to be able to qualify for these grants, from what I understand, because shovel ready means you need to own the land, I'm pretty sure. So that's shovel ready. So the fact that we don't own the land, and more importantly, the fact that we haven't negotiated for that land in 20 years of putting this road together, I'm almost blown away. So here we're at a stage now at the last minute of the last day, and the meeting we had recently in May here, that's the first meeting we've had to negotiate this land. Is that what I'm guessing? So when it comes down to it, if you think of the sheer fact that we haven't acquired the land component in over 20 years, and the cart before the horse with all this spending, and we spent almost $1 million now putting together designs and all this criteria for a road that we're not in any position to do, because as it was pointed out, the CRD could say no, and then we're stuck. So I guess my biggest thing would be, in the end, is that I'm not comfortable spending any more money on any part of it for any reason, and especially not directing anybody to do any more work until after the election, because that's the first time CRD is willing to meet with us again about that component, and that's probably the most important part of this whole process, is having the land. So that was where I will leave it. I mean, I wouldn't support spending another nickel on this whole process. So.
Okay, I'm going to go through staff and then back through our speaking order.
Your worship, just as a clarifications, my predecessor had started negotiations, and the CRD is well aware of the plan for this connector and have not turned their attention to that land for their own use. But again, if we hesitate too long and there's a change at the CRD board, maybe that might not be their attitude, but right now they are supportive of the idea of the connector. And just to clarify, generally with shovel-ready projects, grant funders will give you a window of 5 years to actually spend the money. So we could get the grant, acquire the land, and build it in the last 2 or 3 years. So we don't necessarily have to have the money right off the bat. But we do have to have plans to acquire it.
Okay. Councillor Bateman.
Yeah. So I'd like to move the option number 1.
We do have a motion on the
Oh, do we?
floor. It's just to receive for
Okay,
information, so you can make an amendment to it. Or I can come back
Well, then
to you
I'll
to do
just-
a new motion.
I'll just discuss this further then.
Okay.
So it seems like we have to do something practical here and now. And as Councillor Haldane says, it's high time we negotiated and acquired this land along the route from Church to Sea Park. And yes, Mr. Carter did tell us of a strategy, right? This was a strategy to acquire that land. And I think some preliminary discussions have taken place, but this would be a good, strong first step. I also very much like option number 4, which is to bring forward a report on a non-binding plebiscite to really test the temperature of our community in terms of their desire for this new piece of road and their ability to pay for it. Because that's $7,000, if I have my numbers right there, over 30 years, that's significant. I might want to take the bus more often with that kind of money. So those are comments, and I don't have any other questions at this point. Oh, yeah, no.
Okay, I will come back to you once we've cleared this. I'll come back to you for a motion then. Anything further on receiving for information from Councillor Pearson?
Yeah, I think the motion that we have is valid. I think there's a whole ton more of information that is not available to us at our fingertips. I think ongoing discussions have to take place. I echo my colleague, Councillor Haldane's statement. Here we are 18 years later and we haven't secured all the right of way and another level of government, and it probably will go good, probably will go okay. Like we're guessing probably this is going to work. I'm comfortable moving the motion ahead, voting on it right now, just to say that's all we need to do for now. I don't think that, I don't understand what question we would ask on the plebiscite that's non-binding. We're too late for a borrowing one on this time. So there's not much to be gained by delving into it any deeper at this time. For me personally, I think there's just too many unanswered questions.
Okay, there's a few things to clarify. If council did want to do borrowing, we could schedule a series of special meetings and still do that. So I'm just putting that out there that you could do that. Secondly, when there's been comments of 20 years and nothing's been done, just remind members of council that the work pivoted to do the roundabout at Highway 14 and Evergreen Mall, like that happened. Then it was the case of trying to connect Goodmere to Brownsea or to Murray Road. All of that planning work was done, but then that got put on the shelf, and instead the pivot was to build out Wadham's Way instead. So then that work happened. Then the sidewalks on Church and Otter Point happened, and then Charters Road happened. And then the highways, this work paused because then the ministry did their full assessment of Highway 14 and did the new 4 lanes, the Sooke River roundabout. That was that wasn't even a traffic light. It was a T-junction at one point. And then, so those other things did happen that take time and capacity and political will and all of that. And then there's by-elections and elections and staff turnover and everything else. So to suggest that nothing happened in 20 years, well, a lot did happen. It's just not on this particular one because other priorities came forward instead. So I'll leave it at that. Okay, I'm just going to call the question then. We're receiving for information. All those in favor of receiving? Anyone opposed? No one's opposed. It's unanimous. Councillor Bateman, your motion, please. In the microphone.
Well, this is a direct verbatim from Mr. Miller. That council directs staff to negotiate with the necessary private property owners for the acquisition of various land parcel segments needed to complete the Throop Road, Phillips Road connector based on the approved cross-section of 25 meters.
Okay, so that's a motion that's been seconded by Councillor St. Pierre. So go ahead, please, on the motion.
Well, as I said earlier, it seems a practical next step towards this much larger vision and a relatively, if the order of magnitude, which I understand to mean a rough guesstimate, is an order of magnitude, so $700,000. And there is a new zoning bylaw coming, and its potential to work with landowners and offer, look at rezoning along that stretch. So yeah, this seems like a very practical. I think the 25-meter cross section is critical if we do look ahead to for future generations. We do have, they're still sitting there. Our future generations are still sitting in the empty seat over there. So I think it's rather critical that we have the required width for a safe, active transportation corridor.
Okay, Councillor.
Can I see the motion on the screen, please?
Yep, staff are going to put it on the screen. I'll go to Councillor St. Pierre as a seconder.
I agree with Councillor Bateman. I think the 25 meters among other things, we're not tied to 25 meters. Future council, which might not be us, can decide otherwise, and we're not tied to it. But meanwhile, if we negotiate for the 25 meters and that's what we need, we've got it. And we've got that costing in place. So it just makes sense to go for the full build out at this point in time. If that's not what happens, that's not what happens. But again, it's going to be up to the electorate to decide whether they want to actually potentially spend this kind of money. But meanwhile, let's get them some actual accurate numbers on the full build out.
Councillor Beddoes?
Yeah, I certainly believe in doing the 25 meters, no matter what we built along there. Sooner or later, we're going to need it. And you might as well buy it now. We're here sitting around this table to plan for 10, 20 years down the road. It's not just here and now. I know that's a lot of people's mind. The only thing I need to know is negotiate with necessary private owners or acquisition. So where did some money come from, the 700,000 come from to buy that land? Because that's what this says. So I would need to have that answered before I could continue on.
Okay, over to staff.
Your worship, through the councillor, that would be a budget line item in the appropriate budget year for purchasing that land.
So your budget's not in. Yeah, okay, so I guess I could ask staff if we had to budget 700,000, what would that be in a tax increase for next year? Roughly, please.
5% at least. If 1% is 130,000. 144,000.
It's nearly 5%,
Okay.
4.8%.
Thank you.
Follow up, I'll go to Ms. Gray first and then to Councillor St. Pierre as a follow-up on that. Okay.
Maybe just to confirm because staff have, like, the purpose of this motion was mostly to confirm the width. Staff have been, as council's aware, talking to all the property owners along this strip for a couple of years now. So we've had numerous informal conversations. And at the end of the day, once council received an update on that a few months ago now. And if more conversations occurred at the confirmed 25-meter width, because that was the latest change, potential change that council has suggested, going to either 20 or the 15.2. Decisions will still come back to council before anything is made. And as well, if grants become available, grant funding could be used as a funding source for some of this, because depending on, so it's not a guarantee it has to be taxes per se, depending on the timing of when this happens. It could be, we secure the right of way and, versus owning it. If they want to buy it outright, there's different scenarios. It's not necessarily that we have to purchase, I guess, all of this land. And if we did have to purchase it, I wouldn't say that all the money has to be paid initially. It could be subject to grants or subject to the project starting. So just to kind of clarify, it might not be next year. Council has to pay $700,000 to acquire land approximately. And all of those decisions would be put forward to council before any funds would change hands.
That helps me greatly. Thank you.
Others on the motion, Councillor Haldane?
Sure. So negotiations were done. You're correct on that. And they were done with little success so far. And I know a bunch of the landowners, so I know how they feel. They think everybody's still in the same position, even the landowners, about all the taxes they have to pay on the land they own and so on. But the other big one is what we got today in a letter from the CRD. The 2021 parcel is out. The number they got for it is outdated. And Melanie indicated after that is complete, they would be able to bring the request to the CRD board after the municipal election. So the whole idea here is there is nothing to negotiate until after the election. So we're even at a part, and I can appreciate us wanting to try and get a handle on what's going forward and all this other stuff. But the biggest chunk that we need is CRD land. And it's the underlying component to make this troop connector work for any reason. So I don't know. I would hate to think we're going to waste a bunch of staff time and money again going to something that could change after the election just by the people who may or may not get elected. and the fact that CRD is not going to negotiate it anyway. So that leaves us in a kind of a tight spot here. But
Well, the board is out of time. I'm just going to interject with the CRD board, is the
Yeah.
board meets once a month. All of the committee meetings that meet funnel up to the board. And there is board business, but anything that is not in the queue simply, like the cutoff has happened. The board meets in July, it does not meet in August, it'll meet in September, and then there's an election. And so similarly, you know, it's the board has marked the landing and marked the finish. So whatever has not been started, like there's other stuff that's in queue, but it's done. It's out of term, it's out of time. It's similar to us. We are out of term, we are out of time. I'm just gonna, and I think what staff is looking on is, in order to ask anyone now is like, okay, how much land do you need? Do you need this, like, how much are we talking about? And that's simply what we're doing here. However, for myself, it's the case of, we are in this case out of term, out of time. We are setting something up that the next council will have to pick up whether they like it or not. You could argue and say, well, they would have to start all over again. Well, it depends. They could scrap the whole thing. They could carry on. They could do something entirely different. And then we're running into summer. I guess where I'm at with this is I would favor a plebiscite question and gauge whether the community feels this is something we should spend any further rent money on. And then that next council can take that and go forward from there. As opposed to, we would spend whatever is left in the budget now, staff would initiate that, present it, and like, no, we don't want to do it. And then it'll just, I don't know. I don't know what's gonna happen. I can't say every council picked up every single piece that every other council was working on. Sometimes yes, many times no. I don't know. Does anyone else want to speak on this? No. Not at all, no. Okay. Anything? No. Counselor Bateman would like to speak.
Well, you've
for a
made some
second
very
time.
good points there. And if we did go, we had a good, clear plebiscite question that, I know that, but you addressed that point, that option 4, cart before horse. Option 4 would give us community opinion on moving forward, and then it would be time for the new council to direct staff to begin that process. I'm looking to our mayoralty candidates here. I'd like to hear what you have to say.
There may be others as well emerging. I've been asked, Counselor Beddoes would like to speak on the motion, and let's not do that, okay? Because it's unfair. Nobody is,
Just that.
yeah, it's out of order.
I'm just gonna speak to this. I like the idea of the 25 meters. But I have to, if the CRD can't even give us an answer, then why are we bothering? I'm afraid we're gonna have to leave it to the council. And the other part, because everybody spoke to it, and I will speak to it too. I'm not in favor of going to some sort of a plebiscite vote on something that we cannot give accurate figures to. I mean, what are we gonna ask them to do? 25 million and we might get a grant for 12? 20 million, we might get a grant for 6, or the whole shot. I mean, you know, when you ask a question, you have to make it clear and concise of what you're asking for. And I don't think we're at that point in time. We might be by next year, and that's the new council to pick up the ball if they want. I know it's a different set of people. There are going to be different people here. And then give a question to the public that is accurate, because what I have here is not accurate. I appreciate what staff has done. A lot of work's gone into it. I've got a pretty good idea of the ballpark figures, but I was just on a Zoom Teams meeting with the CRD Parks, Sea Park, and they say, you know, for any big project today, you cannot do it, whether it's arena or whatever it is, without government help. And we're in the same boat. We're not going to build this road without some sort of provincial or federal government help. It's just going to be far too expensive. So we need to get that message across, and we need to get on to our MLAs and our MP, wherever she is, and they are, yeah. Anyway, we need help on this one. I think it's very, very, very unfair to stick it to the people of Sooke. You know, this thing is even a regional thing. It's not just the Sooke's problem. A lot of that traffic goes through to Otter Point and off the Jordan River and everything else. It is the province needs to step up and be part of this conversation. And I think that's where, if I was around next year, that's where I'd be going. I say, look, we need to sit down and have a talk about this, because what we hit with before with, oh, we're not going to do anything until you solve the problem. It's not just our problem. It's all of our problems. It's the provinces and the feds, and we need everybody on this. So we can't proceed with this at this point in time. I just want to just pass it as it is, and we'll see what the next council does.
Okay, anything further on the motion? I'm going to call the question. All those in favor? Yes. Councillor St. Pierre is in favor. Anyone opposed? Councillor Pearson, Councillor Beddoes, Councillor Haldane, Councillor Bateman, myself, we're all opposed, so that is defeated. Is there any other motion? Councillor Bateman wanted to move this one, so I'm going to read it out and see if anyone moves it at all. That council directs staff to bring forward a report on a non-binding plebiscite regarding continuation of the Throop Road, Phillips Road Connector Project for community opinion to be expressed on October 17, 2026. Would someone like to move that? I'm going to move it. Is anyone going to second it? Okay. I'm just putting it out there. We've heard around the room and around the table for many times now about the amount of time, the amount of resources, consulting fees, property taxes, conversations and work that has gone into this particular connection. So the idea here would be, is this something that the community feels should be a priority of council? And let's ask the community if they feel that this road is where this effort should be going. It doesn't mean that it's a borrowing to borrow at this point. It's just when you hear about all the amount of time and energy that has gone into this, is this what you want your council to continue doing at all? I don't know. Do you think this road, this one road, is going to solve everything? To me, the backup starts at Cicino School, maybe during school hours, and there is no appetite at all for anything to happen with that school. It slows down when all the students of Edward Milne try to drive home and backs up. It backs up when the bus is stopped in the middle of the road because there is nowhere for it to pull off to. And then again at Church Road, when there's no right-hand turn lane at all Highway 14. When Halloween is underway, every crosswalk in Sooke is full and busy, starting with the roundabout, which is great to see, but it goes on speaking on this motion and I am allowed to. So why not ask the community if they feel this is something that is going to address the needs of the community and solve traffic, and ask them. We have that opportunity this month, put it on the ballot, and you can ask every candidate at that point what they think. We'll leave it at that. Councillor Bateman is the seconder.
Okay, well, I voted against my own earlier motion because I listened and learned, and I do respect the points raised. Councillor Beddoes made some good points about the fact that we are not going to be providing a cut and dried, here's the cost over 30 years, given the lack of grant results at this point in time. It's critical to me. Well, as you've just stated, this is a rare opportunity. Here we go. They're going to the polls. There's going to be 7 tick marks plus hopefully a plebiscite on the community center. gathering place, and here's a possibility, let's find out. So I would be very curious to know, and I think also the Ministry of Transportation and Transit, they really need to know that we are doing our very best to meet their request, right? They want us to upgrade our municipal road network to ensure that they continue with their Highway 14 corridor improvements, which include those right turn lanes going up the hill on Phillips, Charters and Church. So I don't know what question will be recommended in a staff report. Maybe you'll give us a couple of options and make it vague, but direct enough that people can say, yeah, I'm prepared to pay significant more money over the 30 years to ensure that my commuting experience is improved over time. Yes.
Others, Councillor Pearson, then St. Pierre, then Beddoes.
While I appreciate the idea of asking a plebiscite question, it's kind of like, to me, it's like asking if you like your mom. And, you know, who wants a better road? Everybody wants a better road. The percentage of people that turn out, I don't think it sends the right message to the province. And I'm in opposition to your thoughts, Councillor Bateman. I think when the rubber hits the road, we have a plan, we're ready to go with a shovel-ready project. I think that's when the province sits up and takes notice, and then they'll give grants. We're asking another question, it's just kicking it down the road again. We haven't made up our mind. We want to ask another council if it, and so I'm not going to support the motion. Just asking a question. I would actually rather ask a referendum question back to, you know, my colleague, Mr. Beddoes, or Councillor Beddoes. Because then you have numbers and you have things people understand. What are you asking me? Right now, we're going to ask, do you want a better road? Well, of course we do. But no, I don't think it sends the right message to the province. Anyway.
We don't have the question yet. This is just a staff report. Councillor St. Pierre.
Based on what I'm seeing here, I'm in the same opinion as Councillor Pearson. I think that unless we're actually asking the public to spend money, we don't actually know anything except they like good roads and they would like better roads. And who doesn't? Unless they have a price tag attached and they know what they're getting involved with, it's just a feel-good question and it gives us no real direction and a false mandate as far as I'm concerned. So I would avoid that if possible.
Councillor Beddoes.
Yeah, I could give you my speech again, but I won't bother. Yeah, no, I understand what we're doing here, but again, one of these rare occasions where I agree with some of my fellow councillors about. Yeah, I know. Anyways, the again, even when we go up for the gathering place, we at least to set a number on it, 5 million. Then they have something tangible. You know, if we did something like that, maybe, but then again, I think that's disingenuous as well, because I don't know whether you could do it for whatever X number of dollars, because we haven't checked it out further enough. And unfortunately, I would like to get on with it, but the thing is that time is ticking here, and it's left it a bit too late. Not through any fault of us. I mean, the feds have pulled the money out, and we would have had, if that everything had come through, we would have had a question for them, a certain amount, and then they say yes or no. But I think you need something a little bit more to go to the public with in regards to this. And if it comes to a hot button issue to the election, I'm prepared to speak to it. I know enough about it, but I can't support it as it is because there's just not enough information. So I won't be voting for it.
Councillor Haldane.
Yes, similar to that. I mean, there's not enough information here to do a proper plebiscite or expectation. It should say, is it farther to Throop Road or by bus? And then it'd be clear as mud too. The whole idea here is we're just trying to get some people interested in fixing up roads in Sooke, but we're not telling them how much it's going to cost or how much taxes are going up. And as everything that's gone on for the last 6 months, taxes have been the important issue here. Traffic's an important issue, but I don't think people are willing to spend their life savings to try and get this through at this time. So I think this it means well, but I don't think it's gonna do what we need done. So I'm not gonna support it either. So.
Okay, we'll call the question. No community ask on this one, but I'll just say for the record, I don't see it solving traffic. I just see another headache if it's not done right. All right, call the question. All in favor? In favor of the motion? Opposed? All right, Councillor Pearson, St. Pierre, Beddoes, and Haldane are opposed. Is defeated. That was a close one there. I still would have been defeated, but I saw like a half hand over here, so I thought someone changed their mind. All right, okay. Well, that concludes that for now. Good luck to the next council. Where are we? We are on item 10.2, 2025 annual report. Anything from staff on the annual report? Got some great feedback earlier today, or all kinds of feedback, I should say.
Yes, I did have a brief presentation, about 5 minutes, maybe. Okay, the 2025 annual report. Tonight I'm presenting the Districts of Sooke's 2025 annual report. The report provides a high-level overview of municipal operations, achievements, financial performance, and planned priorities for the year ahead. Recognizing there's lots of content in the report, the intent of this presentation is just to highlight a few key items and themes of progress made in 2025. Just for reference, anyone watching online or reading this or watching this after the fact, the annual report is legislatively required every year. It's prepared in accordance with Section 98 and 99 of the Community Charter. It provides an overview of district operations, achievements, and financial stewardship for the 2025 fiscal year. And it also includes the audited financial statements of the year end December 31st, 2025. It connects our annual activity back to our strategic priorities, helps residents understand what services are delivered and what progress was made and what work is planned next. As been highlighted before, I'm pleased to highlight that the district was recognized by the Government Financial Officers Association with the Canadian Award for Financial Reporting for the 2024 report. That recognition reflects the district's commitment to clear, organized, and transparent financial reporting. Just a bit of information on community feedback snapshot. As you council's aware, we do an annual survey and ask, the community, how satisfied are you with services? Overall satisfaction was 75%, and 74% of respondents rated quality of life in Sooke as good or excellent. Again, as identified by the residents, Sooke's natural beauty, parks and trails, and community spirit are the key strengths. And as through connection report highlighted, at the same time, roads, transportation, and traffic congestion remain visible areas of concern. This slide here just summarizes the major accomplishments across several of our strategic priority areas under sustainable growth and environmental stewardship. The updated zoning bylaw to align with provincial housing legislation and the adoption of the official community plan were key deliverables. For community economic development, as council's aware, the approval to start collecting the municipal and regional district tax will be a game changer for the district for years and years to come. On infrastructure and transportation, the district continued to implement the asset management plan, substantially completed the Little River pedestrian crossing and multi-use trail, and conducted midpoint reviews of the transportation master plan and the Parks and Trails master plan. Organizationally, the district advanced internal process improvements, including temperature redevelopment and training. The council code of conduct review occurred and reestablished committees and enhanced our website. Community safety and well-being remained a significant focus for 2025. Just some of the quick highlights for, because I believe a couple of these questions came up. Sooke Fire Rescue responded to 1,580 calls, with medical calls accounting for approximately 62% of those call volumes. Police and service volumes also remained higher, with 5,259 district calls for service in 2025, which is an 18% increase over 2024. Bylaw call volumes remained elevated as well. While calls decreased slightly compared to 2024, they remained significantly higher than in 2023, showing continued demand for education, enforcement, and compliance support. Notably, as proactive patrols have increased from bylaw officers, complaints have declined, demonstrating a more efficient use of limited resources. And on the prevention side, Fire Smart program exceeded its target, completing 70 assessments, and which is an important example of proactive community risk reduction and the value of supporting residents. Planned work includes strengthening partnerships with local and regional emergency services and Fire Hall 2 Fire Smart upgrades as part of a grant-funded project. And looking to the year ahead, this slide highlights several planned activities for the year ahead, including the 2026 local government election, in case you weren't aware. The district is also advancing our long-term asset management planning, including short-term projects to address a couple of sinkholes that have materialized over the last few months here, implementing the municipal regional district tax program, which includes forming a committee to handle the distribution eventually and management of those funds. Applications for committee members are currently open, so if you're listening and interested, please visit sooke.ca/committees to learn more. Obviously tonight, got some direction from council on priorities for staff time, and so through Road Connector, thank you for council for the direction to down tools, I guess, at least for now on this project, and save this information to present to new council on what the future direction of this will be. As council heard at the last meeting, we are also establishing a sewer utility billing mechanism following the expiry of the sewer parcel tax later this year. And we as well are launching new internal HR software systems to find some efficiencies and keep up with service demand. Two more slides here. Is leadership advocacy and reconciliation, as council has highlighted. This is a major focus for council at pretty much every conference that has gone on with UBCM and even over in the past years with FCM. Council takes the opportunity to engage with representatives there from federal and provincial bodies, from crown corporations and other organizations like BC Hydro, et cetera, Fortis BC, and to advocate for the needs of the community. These efforts are focused mostly on infrastructure, investment, community safety, emergency preparedness, housing, and economic development. As council may recall, Sooke was finally allowed to be included in the Island Coastal Economic Trust area, which will hopefully help improve our funding eligibility for future grants. And the district also continued to advocate on issues that affected residents across the region, including transportation, healthcare access, infrastructure funding, and community services. And this is shown by council's commitment to an urgent and primary care center, which has also remained steadfast. Reconciliation remains a key commitment. The district is continuing to work on several joint initiatives, including knotweed eradication in the Sooke River, as well as a couple other joint initiatives with our neighbors, with the South Nation, to improve that relationship. Overall, the annual report reflects the district's continued commitment to respectful relationships, shared learning, cultural understanding, and collaboration with municipal partners across sectors and agency. And in closing, the 2025 annual report demonstrates meaningful progress across council's strategic priorities. It also recognizes the reality of a growing community, rising service demand, the need for resilient infrastructure, and the importance of organizational capacity and financial sustainability. The recommended next steps are included in the motion, which is for council to receive this report for information and direct staff to submit it for the 2025 GFOA financial award consideration. And last but not least, I want to speak to the connection this report makes to our operations, and that's that it's continuous improvement. We are listening every year through strategic plan setting, through budget setting, and ensuring we are following through and reporting on the results of that, the deliverables assigned by council in the budget. And when we hear feedback from the community, we can, we'll rework that into future versions of the reports when necessary. But we're always striving for continuous improvement and progress, not perfection, and welcome any feedback from the community for improvements to future reports. And with that, that is the end of my presentation, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Perfect. Okay, we'll put the motion on the floor, and that is that council received the District of Sooke's 2025 annual report for information, and that council directs staff to submit the 2025 annual report to the Government Finance Officers Association for financial reporting consideration. Moved by Councillor Haldane, seconded by St. Pierre. Any comments or question, Councillor Haldane? Councillor St. Pierre? Councillor, any others? Councillor Bateman?
Thank you. Yeah, thank you. I feel like standing up and applauding. It's a remark, as Mr. McCaddy said, he's not here anymore. He said it all very well. I mean, it's this context-setting depth of content within this document. So I've looked at maybe 10 years worth of annual reports, and I think last year set a new bar, and you've been duly awarded for that. And yeah, there's an awful lot of content in there. So the next time we want to know about who is paying the most commercial taxes, let's go have a look at, and who are we giving our channeling district funding to. It's all in there, and it's quite a remarkable document that we should all keep close under our pillows, perhaps. Okay.
Give some of us a nightmare, but yes, no, but thank you very much for the work. And also every year, staff has sought some feedback from councils on what we would like to see within the report. And you've certainly listened to that and included and responded. So thank you very much. I'll call a question. All in favor? And that's unanimous. Thank you. We'll move on to the next one, which is 10.3, the 2025 Statement of Financial Information. This also is a statutory requirement to submit. Is there any staff report to go with this? No?
Sorry, Your Worship. No, there's no staff report to go with this. We're happy to answer any questions.
Okay, I just saw that. Your mic was on, so, okay. So I'll put the motion forward, and that is that council received the 2025 Statement of Financial Information Report for information, and that council approves submission of the District of Sooke 2025 Statement of Financial Information to the Ministry of Municipal Affairs, and that council authorize the mayor and the director of financial services to sign the Statement of Financial Information approval form. Moved by Councillor Haldane, seconded by Councillor St. Pierre. Any questions, comments? It's kind of what was spent and where. All those in favor? And that's unanimous. Thank you. 10.4 UBCM Annual Convention. There is a report here just for an update on what we're seeking meetings with. So that is here for information.
I think this is the last, just to clarify with council, this is the last council opportunity to add any meeting requests. So that's why this is just for one final time on the agenda. If there's any additional meetings council would like, this is your last opportunity to request those.
Okay. So there was moved for information by Haldane, seconded by St. Pierre. St. Pierre. Yes.
Given that we have a resolution going forward about the food waste and the expiry dates in grocery stores, what would the appropriate ministry And I would appreciate a chance to present that to a minister as well. And,
It has to pass on the floor first.
no, it doesn't.
All right, well, I would suggest that you are putting the motion forward.
It's
I don't
basically,
know.
it's an advocacy piece where we can take it to any MLA that's, or MP that's appropriate. And if they decide to champion it, it doesn't even matter what UBCM has to say about it.
Okay, but if are we restricted with our requests from ministers? Sometimes they restrict us to only 3, and so we have to prioritize. So I just want to know that.
Your worship, we can make an unlimited number of requests with a total of 3 requests per ministry. So far we have filed the requests as were listed in the staff report.
Okay.
So if you wanted to add another ministry to that, then we certainly could submit that. There's another 2 days before the deadline. Yeah.
Okay, I don't know, like that's part of the research, right?
It was suggested Ministry of Agriculture might be appropriate, given that they deal with food. I'm not sure whether or not that's the appropriate ministry for retail grocery stores, that's all. That's the only real question for me. But I think the Ministry of Ag could be the appropriate ministry, at least for some of it.
I have no idea. Okay. Well, we're running out on time, so I appreciate the enthusiasm, but it's just usually you would know that before. the
I made
meeting.
arrangements to meet with our MLA and discuss it. I'm trying to figure out more, but haven't had a chance yet.
Okay,
Add some information.
sure.
Yeah, so we can book ministry, agency, commission, and corporation staff meetings, which will be held virtually between September 8th and September 11th. And we can do so by August 5th at 6 p.m. So if not a minister, you could speak to and do find out exactly where you want to take your
That would be a good option.
Could do.
You have a bit more time for that. It's just right now, staff need to close this off and we need to have the discussion today unless you want to have a special meeting.
No interest in
to
special.
do
meeting.
that. So in this case, I would say that we'll go with what's here, and then the alternative then is to do that research and then make a request in an upcoming meeting to bring it forward to the relevant staff or other agency.
To be clear, I have done research and the Ministry of Ag is appropriate.
Okay.
I don't know if further ministries would also be appropriate.
Well, at this point, we can only add the Ministry of Agriculture. So we can add that. So we'll add then the an amendment to include the Ministry of Agriculture.
Thank you.
Someone, are you moving that? Okay, and seconded by Bateman. Okay, so we're adding that as an amendment. And anything else on the motion as, I'll call the question on the amendment. All those in favor of adding this one? Any opposed? It's unanimous. Is there any other items? So for members of council that have requested these, it is now up to you to also send an email or some information to staff as to why you want the meeting, so that they're not sitting there asking me and I say, I have no idea because I'm not a mind reader. So I'm hoping that you can either send an email to staff and myself that would say, Minister so-and-so, this is what I think we need to do, just a few bullets. And then we can submit all of that so that we're ready to go. And if you don't know how to type, you can use voice to text. It's a good function. I'm just saying. Otherwise, I have no clue. All right. Anything else?
Well, I'm just uncertain of, I remember I recommended Ministry of Transportation and Transit at the outset, and I'm sure Mr. Lois has enough information. Do you need further direction on that one?
We all might have picked up some pieces for today. So this is homework for everybody.
Okay.
So that you feel what you feel when the time comes, we have a meeting and we have a prepared document, then we all know what we're advocating for. Because depending on when the virtual meetings are and the other meetings, we're not sure who's going to be at what. So you need to have something in place. And then we don't want any last, that we all know, as opposed to we have the meeting and we have no idea what it's for. Or we're rejected because we didn't put in enough substance. Okay, all right. All in favor? Unanimous, thank you. Okay, next item. 11, we're here on bylaws. 11.1. So this is repeal of section 3.7 density bonus provisions, zoning bylaw amendment number 944 600-118 2026. And it is that council adopt the bylaws cited as zoning bylaw amendment number 944 600-118 2026. Moved by St. Pierre, seconded by Councillor Bateman. All those in favor? It's unanimous. Thank you. 11.2. That is that council adopt the bylaw cited as zoning amendment bylaw number 939 600-116 2026. We have adoption by St. Pierre, seconded by Haldane. All those in favor? And any opposed? That's unanimous. Thank you. 11.3 signs. That is that council adopt the bylaw cited as signs amendment bylaw number 948 2026. Moved by Councillor Haldane, seconded by Councillor St. Pierre. All those in favor? Any opposed? That's unanimous. Thank you. New business. I understand there could be some new business following delegations or information earlier today. Are there any new business items? Yes. Councillor Bateman.
Yeah, I sent that through. I think should be able to go up on.
Should this maybe read as a notice of motion?
Perhaps so, yeah.
Okay, we'll
Let's
read
do-
this in as a
okay.
notice of motion.
Okay.
Go ahead.
That the district enter into discussions with the Sooke Community Association regarding its January 17th, 2026 request for new service agreements for Fred Milne Park and Art Morris Park, with the proviso that rate increases for user groups at these facilities be kept to a reasonable minimum. So we'll take fair out.
Okay,
And so. And that's Fred Milne Park. In the third line.
oh, instead of mile, it's mill.
Yeah, there we are.
Okay,
Okay, that's the notice of motion for discussion next July 13th.
okay. Anything else from anyone? Okay, notice of motion. Are there any other notice of motions? Councillor Bateman?
In my last 3 months, I'm going to get as many of these on the table as possible.
We're running out of term.
So here we go. Notice of motion for July 13th. This is, you perhaps can screen share that. Okay, so whereas the Gathering Place Intergenerational Center was identified for a portion of the Town Center Lot A in the council-approved Sooke Lot A, a Future in Planning 2019 report, along with the library, healthcare facilities, and a public plaza. And whereas the Sooke Region Communities Health Network requires certainty as plans move forward for the Gathering Place and the related plebiscite, therefore, be it resolved that Sooke Council direct that remaining land on Lot A be held in reserve for a public plaza and the gathering place with associated parking space for a period of no longer than 5 years.
Okay, so that's a notice of motion that will come to the next regular meeting. Are there any other notice of motions? Nope. Okay. Moving into correspondence. First one is 14.1 referendum cost and backup plan. So this here is to receive for information. Moved by Councillor Haldane, as you pulled it, seconded by anyone seconding it? Pearson? Okay, go ahead, Councillor Haldane. You pulled this item?
Yeah, I mean, I pulled this last time because I wasn't sure if we were going to get a chance to talk about a plebiscite or referendum and so on. So now that we've taken care of that earlier tonight, I have no issues and have nothing to talk about with this. So,
Okay, anything from anyone else? Call a question, receive and file. All in favor? And that's unanimous. Thank you. The next one is 14.2, the gathering place costs, requested for discussions. So that'll be 14.2 to receive by Counselor Bateman as the mover who pulled it, seconded by Counselor Haldane. Go ahead, Counselor Bateman.
Well, I'm the kick it down the road specialist, so that the submission dated May 25th, 2026 from Search President Nikki Loggins be added to the July 13th council agenda in association with the Gathering Place plebiscite staff report.
Okay, so that's an amendment. Is there a seconder for the amendment by Counselor Beddoes? Anything on the amendment? No, I'll call the question on the amendment. All in favor? Any opposed? The main motion is amended. Anything else? You'll see it next meeting. All those in favor, please. And that's unanimous. Thank you. 14.3, thank you, letter Kids Sport. This is moved for receive for information by Counselor Pearson as the mover, seconded by Counselor Haldane. Go ahead, Counselor Pearson.
No, I just think it's important when we get a letter that's that positive and that nice that we share it and it comes to a formal council meeting. That's it. For information, it's a really great letter. So sometimes when we give out these grants, we don't hear back from people, and here's one that says some really positive things in our community. So thank you.
Okay, thank you. I'll just share that this program does have a far reach.
Yes.
For folks that may be used to the C Park registration, the information on this is readily available. I'm not sure how widespread this news is in the community though, so perhaps other users that are also with registration fees may be able to access this program as well. So just sort of push that out there. Whether or not families know about it, I'm not sure. It may just depend on where they're registering. So. Okay, call the question. All in favor? That's unanimous. Thank you. Next up is 14.4, the CRD 2025 annual report. So that has been pulled by Counselor Pearson as the mover and seconded by Counselor Bateman. Thank you. Go ahead, Counselor Pearson.
Yeah, the point of me bringing this one forward is that I hope it's on hope it's on our website.
Not their annual report.
The annual report, but there's a link to it on our website because it's a really important, it's the only place that the general public can actually get it. I think they can go to CRD, but I think it's important that sometimes we share the work that the CRD is doing. I mean, we have a director on the CRD board. It would be nice if I could just go into my Sooke link and then click on it.
Okay, maybe I'll ask our CEO if we can maybe share out the news release on it on our website.
For sure. No
Yeah.
problem.
Okay, did you need a motion for that?
No, that's fine.
Okay, perfect.
Okay.
All right, call it. Go ahead.
As a seconder, I'll just say, yeah, this too is a substantial annual report. It's not as good as ours.
No.
With just hometown pride. But yeah, a lot has happened at the CRD as over this last year, including the launch of the regional transportation service, the purchase of the Kapoor lands, and particularly the biosolids project. And well, yeah, we know how you voted on that. But yeah, so there's a lot in the works at the CRD, right? The mothership.
Excellent. Okay, so I'll call the question. All in favor, and that's opposed, or none opposed. That's unanimous. Thank you. 14.5 is pulled by Counselor Pearson, seconded by Counselor Haldane. Go ahead, Counselor Pearson.
And the point of this was, and I wrote a motion, and would it be possible to have staff give us a report to develop potential savings on locally based conferences? Just a simple, is there opportunity for savings? I got asked a lot of questions about.
Sorry, I'm not clear on what your amendment is. Like, we have a motion to receive for information. So what is your amendment?
My amendment is, can we take the portion of the letter specifically related to local conferences and ask staff to create a report for potential savings?
I think
for attendance.
I think what you may want to do is it comes down to travel and expense policy. So if you want, if that is what you are looking at, then it would be that come forward for discussion is that policy. Because that is what a report would point to.
Right.
We set a policy and then there's a budget associated with that. So if you want to make any refinements, then you need to address it at that policy.
Yeah, and that is the intent, is to get it to discussion and maybe not change, but get it to a public discussion. That's all. Just because I think there's
So,
lots of good ideas that we could potentially have. I don't want to get into them here.
so your amendment would be then that that council directs staff to bring the travel and expense, council
Yeah.
travel and expense policy to an upcoming meeting for discussion.
Yes, exactly.
Okay, is there a seconder for that? You're seconding it? Okay. Well, it puts it on the floor.
Yeah.
So this is, okay, go ahead. You have an amendment, you,
Yes, and the only caveat that I have right now, or the only change is, we're running out of time. This council's gonna come to an end, and maybe we could just file it for information. I'm fine with that if it gets voted down and be discussed on the next council. That's.
Councillor Haldane, any comments?
No, it's election year. I'm gonna keep my mouth.
Okay, I'm not in support of this. I think that the next council, there's only one conference coming up. It's UBCM, it's in Vancouver. If council is concerned of the optics of their travel there, then I would suggest you notify staff immediately if you don't want to attend, so that they know that they can release your hotel room that has been booked and not register you. So please let them know immediately. I think that when the next council forms, they can decide what they feel is value and participate and amend the policy. I'm not going to now say, okay, I took advantage of this policy and I'm now going to restrict anyone future coming after of that. So no, I don't think, I think just given where we're at, we need to mark the landing and finish this off. And the next council can determine if education and advocacy is a priority of theirs, and then decide accordingly what they want to attend and who's going to attend what and what they're going to do. But that'll be up to them, and they can make that determination. And leave it at that.
I was hoping not to go down into the weeds on it. It was just a suggestion on clarity where there's potential savings.
We're out of time and term. Let the next
And I
council-
understand, and I do understand the timing on that. I'm fully prepared to just receive it for information at this point. It's,
Okay, well, I'm gonna call the question on the amendment because that's already on the floor. Anything further on the amendment? All right, all those in favor of the amendment? Councillor Pearson is. Anyone opposed to the amendment? Councillor St. Pierre, Beddoes, Bateman, myself, Haldane, I don't know where you're at. Okay, he's in favor, so two, and that's defeated. Okay, so the main motion, well, I'm just going to remove because we have to receive it for information. So that's weird because that's an amendment now. So the amendment has failed, so I don't have to worry about it. So now it's just receive for information. All those in favor? And that's unanimous. Thank you. Okay. Let's see, where are we in this agenda? There's nothing removed from a consent. So that brings us to council verbal reports. Councillor St. Pierre.
It's been a long day, I think, for both Councillor Bateman and myself. 9 o'clock today, we were at the CRD Transportation Megathon, and actually, to sum things up, there's good planning in the works that's going to get a lot of input from various stakeholders on a regional transportation plan that should allow the new body that's been formed through the CRD to basically try and duplicate some of the successes of, say, TransLink and Metrovan to go looking for big dollars for larger infrastructure projects that have a regional impact, which in the past we haven't been able to do so well because we've had a number of local governments, none of which had the clout or the voice to basically speak for those or to have shovel-ready projects ready. So the hope, as I understand it, if all this comes to fruition, and there'll be a lot of engagement along the way before summer 2027, I believe when this is supposed to come before the CRD board, is to develop priorities, investment plans, so on and so forth, to allow that sort of thing to happen. And I'm sure Councillor Bateman can add to that, but that's what I got from it.
Oh,
Yeah, I was just there for half a day because I had to tackle this agenda. And yet, yes, that's exactly right. There's CRD Regional Transportation Plan of 2014 is being updated, and that will be finalized next year and will be guiding the new regional transportation service. So there was about 100 people in the room, and it went through a really interesting five-part. What's that?
Exhaustive is the word I use.
Exhaustive. Yeah, and I think the interesting thing was discussions around regional equity at the table I was at, and how, you know, a lot of the emphasis is going to go into those core communities where the volume of traffic is and transit, and yet we out here in Sooke need to be, and the JDF need to get all due consideration, no matter our relative size. And I think equity is very much at the core of this this plan going forward. And the other good thing is that the transportation service is positioned to join the district in advocating for Highway 14 corridor improvements, and helping us with transportation related funding applications and grants. Yeah, and I did, Councillor Haldane, mention the HOV lanes during rush hours. You know, to do those bus lanes potentially be used to lessen the number of single occupancy vehicles. So that was one of the Post-it notes among the thousands of Post-it notes that went up on those boards. So they're all being collected, and we'll get the report back. So my other activities, I went to the celebration of the new Mugga Court at Ravens Ridge on Saturday. Walked there with a group of people from the Friends of Sooke Park Society, enjoyed a hot dog from the Lions, and met several candidates for office as the season of pressing the flesh has begun. And it was fascinating. You know, it's really, I find this season to be particularly invigorating because there's so much, you know, great thinking out there. There's all kinds of thinking, and it's fascinating to me. Whatever. Okay, I'll just note, I also went to the Sooke Spectacular Senior finals at Murray Road Park, the Cedar Tree property. And Andy the Pizza Man is this year's Spectacular Senior. The finalists are all spectacular in their own ways. Phoebe Dunbar, Janet Evans, Roger Temple, and Frederic Phillip. And Koshin Moonfist was there to crown Andy. And yeah, and the key point is another $10,000 is raised for the Gathering Place, which combined with a surprise $100,000 donation has taken the fundraising total to $410,000. So all pretty interesting. There we go.
other comments? Councillor Pearson, then Beddoes?
Yeah, just I did attend Ravens Ridge. It was a great event and a great opening. I went to the Sooke Senior Spectacular again with Councillor Bateman and the mayor and Councillor St. Pierre. I know that Councillor Haldane was ahead of me and Councillor Beddoes was also there. Yeah, it was good to see the energy around that those little booths that were there from the seniors. It was extremely a positive event. On June 17th, I attended the regional water supply. They're implementing the master plan implementation plan. So it's a 20 to 25 year build out for the filtration, et cetera. Tons of work. What's interesting in there is that the DCC funding portion of it is still sitting with the province. It has to be approved by the municipal minister of Municipal Affairs. 2026 capital projects, there's 77 of them totaling $77 million. They seem to be able to do lots of projects in Capital Regional Water. We're currently at about 98%, slightly below stage one, year over year. And they expect us to be in good shape as long as we stick to the water restrictions. We're not in any danger zones yet. However, there's been some predicted droughts coming. So that's it.
Councillor Beddoes.
Thank you, Your Worship. Yes, a number of us attended that Rainbow Walk at the school, the middle school. Most of us did there anyways. So that was interesting. Always fun to see the energy of those kids, eh? A lot of them had no idea what they were talking about, but damn it, they were happy and running around. So it's wonderful to see our kids with that state of mind. I also attended the Pride picnic as deputy mayor. I gave a little speech there. Interesting to say the least, but yeah, nice little group. I went to the MCS Awards again as deputy mayor. Gave out an award on citizenship. Again, interesting to see our youth are wonderful, and some of the things that they do, and to see the awards go out, and the traditions are changed. You get the metalworking award goes to a girl, a young lady. Well, in my day, that was impossible. So it's just wonderful to see that today. And I think the woodworking one was well. Interesting at the dress these days. Yes, from a little bit older. Wow. And even the teachers, wow. But anyways, that's the way it is. And everybody was full of energy. And that was just absolutely super to be there. Again, I was at Ravens Ridge. Unfortunately, I was there flogging the hot dogs. And I must say that was thanks to our MLA who funded that, by the way. And I had purchased 300, and I think we gave out 150 hot dogs and candy bags. But it was fun. And I had more people come up and say, I had no idea this place was here. And what a wonderful location. I said, we're growing into it. It's not all that well known. If we could only get a lacrosse team going to better use some of the facilities, but they're good. It's beautiful up there. It's nice. So yeah. And what else did I go to? Can't remember. That's enough now. So thank you.
Councillor Pearson. No, sorry, I caught you. Sorry. Councillor St. Pierre.
You went first. Happens all the time. I just wanted to mention Ravens Ridge. I thought that the coverage from Sooke Radio was really amazing. They did a fantastic job. And I wanted to mention the EMCS Awards. My daughter won, and she made this. Okay, so for actually fabric for.
Councillor Haldane?
No, I have nothing to report.
Okay. You've been out and about in the community, though. Everyone's seen you. Councillor Haldane was here. He was here too. Okay, thank you. I just want to thank the deputy mayors for covering off. I've had an unfortunate few trips just dealing with family loss, and attended, unfortunately, 4 memorial/celebration of life events in the space of a week. So it was a little bit busy. I was proud, though, to speak at the service or the event to recognize the late Councillor Spock, and provided a tribute at that remark, and then was off back to Alberta to support my family there. However, I did attend the Rainbow event, and really what that event is about: kindness and inclusivity and equity. And it's just for kids to accept everyone and to be proud of who they are. Rainbows are rare after all, so it's quite beautiful to actually see one. I did attend the Federation of Canadian Municipalities event in Edmonton. The big push from smaller communities to FCM was around grants and the need for sustained funding. So what is meant by that is we do very well when we receive community works funding, and we did it very well when that money was doubled 2 years in a row. And so we are able to provide and very updated report back, as every community is required to do. But when we're always forced to gather information and hire consultants to be ready for a grant and then wait, then the costs go up and then you need to reapply, then you need to modify and this and that, is very tough on a small community, small mid-size. That is common theme across Canada. So there was a concerted effort that whole process of being cap in hand and waiting for 2 years, it needs to change. The infrastructure and community supports everyone, where every community, every home is in a community. So investing in communities is investing in the backbone of Canada and Canadian economy. So that was the real push through joint efforts at FCM. On the aside, I did do a study tour of the CN rail yard in Edmonton, and it was fascinating. I could have spent days there. I've always, from Alberta, loved seeing trains go by. To stand in front of a locomotive was quite intimidating. Won't see me on a bridge doing the whole Stand By Me train dash, for anyone that remembers that movie. Like, it's so big. But it was just interesting to see how the rail system works. We got a behind the scenes look at the whole network of trains, the eyes on it. There's only 2 people on any one of these trains at any given time, and they stretch for kilometers in either direction. So I thought there was several crew members. No, there's really just 2 people. But there's a lot of monitoring that happens. So if something breaks down, obviously the whole system all the way from port to port is clogged up. So it's just interesting to see that, particularly with a renewed interest on getting rail reestablished here on the island. So there's a lot of interesting takeaways to learn from there. Largely, this is moving freight, not so much passenger rail, but it's still trains on a rail. So it was interesting to see. Across the country, though, a lot of conversations around infrastructure, how to support the unhoused population, what does community safety look like? So that is in every community. Everyone that I talk to is facing extraordinary tax increases. Again, advocacy around an outdated system, a property tax framework that doesn't work for today, and a lot of renewed interest around that. So there is a big push now from the FCM board. They're changing their board schedule to align more with the federal budget cycle and so forth, so that things align a little bit differently. So that'll all happen going forward. The convention will always be at the same time. Next year it's in Halifax. And then the board, and when the board meets to do advocacy, will just shift depending on the federal schedule. So more on that. Other than that, a suggestion, given that the Spectacular Seniors event, again, congratulations to Andy, and many thanks to all the finalists that participated. Cedar Tree kindly lent out that parcel, but eventually they may be putting a building there, so that could turn into a development site. Is to maybe suggest that Ravens Ridge and the seniors be held together, because then you will have a different demographics interacting with one another and maybe learning about what each set offers. So I'll just throw that out there to whoever's going to be planning this in the future, is that we talk a lot about intergenerational connections, and this is a great one to do, because largely you have families at one and seniors at the other, but families will be supporting elders, and this way they can share information on what they're doing. So it's level, it's accessible, and it's easy to get around. I was not at that event today, the transportation one, because it was my kid's grade 5 leaving ceremony. And it was the last speech that I gave at any school or will ever give at a school as the mayor, but it was particularly emotional because my tiny baby is finishing elementary school now and has done school, as many students are this week. They're now in their final days. Some might be finished completely, but they're moving into summer break. So just be mindful, they're all over town. And other than that, I've just been totally captured into the World Cup of soccer or football. So go Team Canada. Canada's doing very well. We're in because we're a host city, but also the team is playing very well. It's in my house all the time now, and I'm particularly captivated by the fans. There's obviously Canada, the United States, and Mexico are receiving fans from all over the world. Large cultural exchanges, lots of different cheering and chants. The Tartan Army drank all the beer in Boston before the match even took place. They're in Miami now, so good luck, Miami. But great fan base cleaning up after themselves. You hear stories of significant donations to local charities, others that are walking across the continent to raise money for awareness for mental health back at home. And just the various cultures having this exchange. I am captivated by it on social media. Like, you can't get me off of it now because all I'm watching are various fans trying different food and all this amazing culture. I think it's a great way, just with all the negativity around geopolitical events, is just turn all that off and follow the World Cup fans because they are very positive. It's very exciting and very optimistic. So I'll close on that note and go Team Canada. Good luck Wednesday in your match against Switzerland. And on that note, motion to adjourn, please. Moved by Councillor St. Pierre, seconded by Beddoes. All in favor? That's unanimous. Thank you, everyone, for joining tonight, for speaking, and we'll see you in July. Canada Day and the museum barbecue to come up.